Big 12 Today with Ari and James. 8 to 11 Eastern Time. Your home for all things Big 12.
Big 12 Today here on Big 12 Radio. Welcome into a Three Things Thursday. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. It is a loaded slate of athletic directors today. Yesterday, we talked with Texas Tech's AD Kirby Hocutt. We chatted with Doug McNamee, the athletic director at Baylor. We talked with Eddie Nunez, the AD at Houston. You will hear all of those interviews again today. Also, Matt Murschel from the Orlando Sentinel, because he is our inside go-to guy when it comes to UCF. Day 4 of our newest series, Countdown to Kickoff, 30 days out, less than now officially. But we are going over each and every Big 12 school in terms of what do we know, what don't we know, position battles to watch as camp begins this week across the country, injury news, depth chart conversation. But on a Three Things Thursday, thing number one for me is we have Will Connerly filling in for Ari Timken and Taman Turner, wearing multiple hats today. I'm James Westling. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening exclusively on TuneIn, watching us on the Big 12 Fast Channel. We are powered by Modelo. We have Anthony Smith locked and loaded each and every day behind the camera for Big 12 Studios. But, Will, I told you right before we popped on, I said, hey, I want you're a big part of the show today, because not only are you doing two jobs with one body, but this is your first, big-time debut, I would say, in terms of co-hosting for Big 12 Radio.
That's right. First time. Big-time debut. So let's do it.
So what was going through your mind on the drive in today? You don't strike me as somebody who just gets nervous or anxious when it comes to opportunities and just whatever's next on the list.
I was on my way in, making sure I wanted to be on time. It's interesting, though, because coming from – what's your drive to get here? 15, 10?
No, it's a good half hour.
Half hour? Okay,
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit more than that. No contest. But it takes me a different way every single time, just based off the traffic flow. And so my first thought is just wanting to get here on time, because I know filling in for Taman Turner and making sure Anthony Smith can hear us, that's the top priority, technically speaking. And then obviously thinking about the things we're going to do on the show a little bit, but a lot of that comes even before the drive. So I don't know. Sometimes I'm a big thinker on the road, but other times I'm just looking down on the map, because it's not, obviously I'm not a regular, so you probably don't need the maps to get here anymore, right?
I don't.
You've been coming here for years, so I still need the maps. So I'm thinking about just keeping my eyes on the road.
Dude, you're so dialed in. And if you have missed the last couple of days, my God, Will, he's giant. He's just huge. Sitting right next to me, I'm very intimidated. I'm just glad you fitted the chair.
I do.
It's nice and snug, like a warm blanket wrapping your body. Will Connerly looks like he could play in the NFL, no doubt about it. You've been playing some baseball, around the area?
You heard about that, right?
Just massive. What
Yes.
size shoe are you?
15.
Size 15?
15,
Can you even
yes.
get those, at Foot Locker?
No, it's
You have to
funny
order,
enough. Order, yes. There's some stores that have it. It's funny, because growing up in the Midwest, I typically always would go online. But in Texas, they say everything's bigger. And so living down in Texas the last handful of years, I have been able to snag some in stores. But I typically just order online because, we don't have your size.
The hurdles that must come with being a gentle giant.
It's so tough. Yeah.
Man. Didn't even size 15 shoe.
What are you?
It's amazing. I'm a 12. I'm a solid 12. Yeah. You could grab that basketball. It looked like you were posing with a tennis ball. Just massive. That's awesome. Good stuff. Well, we are super excited to have you here. Will and I have known each other for years because we met when I was doing play-by-play broadcast several years ago for ESPN when I was at TCU, and you were kind of running around, and you came in and came over and introduced yourself, and since then we've stayed in touch. We had coffee together shortly thereafter, and then we both have, for me it's kind of a fill-in job, for you it's kind of your other job with a local radio station, The Ticket, here in Dallas. So we will continue to get all the conversations we've had over time probably equate to how much time we'll be spending together today
True.
on the air, like a full 3 hours.
Yes. That's
So-
good, right? Yeah.
Can't wait, dude. Cannot wait. You're going to crush it. All right. All right, let's start with, it's a Three Things Thursday. Sometimes these are sports, sometimes these are Big 12, sometimes these are random. My thing number one, I am not a huge, like, Marvel superhero movie guy. I kind of put those who are, and this is not in any way, shape, or form meant to be disrespectful, but like adults that just thrive on these Marvel movies, to me, is kind of like a Disney adult who grew up with all the Disney nostalgia and are kind of sharing that same obsession that might be meant for kids, but hey, I'm here for it. Like, you do you. I love that. I have a lot of things that I play way too many video games in my spare time, like things that I would do as a child. I'm very much one for do whatever makes you feel good, okay? But the Spider-Man movie, which is called, help me out, Brand New Day, just opened 6 days ago. Frankly, I didn't even know that there was a new Spider-Man that was hitting theaters.
You're not alone.
Brand New Day hit $1 billion worldwide in 6 days. It is the second fastest to hit that mark, and only the 66th movie ever, all time, to hit $1 billion ever in their entire run in the theaters. Spider-Man, that just opened 6 days ago, did it in less than a week.
And are you going to give us the first fastest? Now I wondered. A lot of times you come with those nuggets, right?
It's Avengers Endgame.
Okay,
there it
that's
is,
the
Will.
fastest.
Avengers Endgame.
Wow.
Avatar is the #1 grossing movie worldwide of all time. Okay. Avengers Endgame is number 2. Avatar: The Way of Water, which I'm assuming is the sequel or the third one in the series or trilogy, is number 3. Titanic. Now that's more in my wheelhouse. Titanic is number 4. The 4th highest grossing movie of all time, 1997. 3 hours and 14 minutes long. What were they thinking?
The box office as well. This is just box office, right?
Yeah, this is just in the theater.
That's crazy too, because theaters and a lot of those movies you named are from decades ago. So to have a movie recently come out and perform that well, it's interesting because you've heard the theaters talk about the struggles with the streaming and with different ways to access movies, and they have to account for different ways for the actors and actresses and directors to be able to get not just compensated, but to continue to grow their careers with not just using the box office as a judgment, but that's really showing things that the new Spider-Man did that.
So the last movie that got to $1 billion in revenue, that I would say outside of, I already mentioned Titanic, but then after that it's like all these Pixar movies, right? Inside Out, Toy Story, etc., etc. The last movie that wouldn't like fall into the Pixar or the Marvel series that hit $1 billion was in 2022. Action movie. It's a banger.
Marvel? Is it a Marvel?
No, it's not.
No.
The first one that isn't Marvel.
Oh, okay.
And if you don't have a guess, in about 3 seconds, I'm going to tell you what it is.
All right, I don't have a guess.
Top Gun Maverick.
Oh, man.
You see Top Gun
yes,
Maverick?
I saw that.
Oh,
yes, both.
man.
Wow.
I had not even seen the original, so I go and I watch the original just to get geared up for the newer version.
Exactly what I did. I watched the original before I went to the theater.
Oh, you saw this one in theater?
Day. I saw Top Gun Maverick in theater, yes. But the original, I watched it with my wife and my mom before we went to, like, so it was basically you're watching movies for 6 hours that day because you watch a movie, drive to the theater because everyone had the craze. Oh, we got to see this. I haven't even seen the original. I got to watch it in order, so I did the same thing as you.
When's the last time you saw a movie in the theater?
Now, that it honestly might have been then. Might have been 22. I haven't gone to the theater in so long.
4 years ago?
Yes. Well, that's why I was shocked when you bring up $1 billion talking about a theater, because it's just, I haven't thought about going to the theater in so long. And I'm not a huge movie guy in general. I feel like people will say, oh, you're sheltered, right? You haven't seen this one? It's a classic. I'm like,
Oh, dude, these guys give me a hard time all the time.
about
Same
certain
thing.
movies.
Yes.
Or there's like somebody comes up with a quote and you're like, they tell you, oh, that movie. And I'm like, oh, I haven't seen this one yet. But there's some quotes from movies that are so popular that I understand now, and I haven't even seen the movie. So I'm sheltered to some movies, but I would say probably 22. I don't go to the theaters that often now that you can just use your remote as your theater now. But there is something about that experience if there's something you really want to see. But how about yourself?
Yeah, so we rented a movie, Disclosure Day, which is the Alien movie from Steven Spielberg. We thought about going to the theater, but we rented it for like $20. But then I'm doing the math, and I'm thinking, okay, we'd spend way more than that if we went and saw it in the theater. We were just feeling kind of lazy. We were tired, but we wanted to see a good movie that was new that neither one of us had seen. So we rented it at home. It was awesome. But I will say, any movie that I do see in the theater, like, everything's better. The sound is better. The picture's better. I don't pause every 8 minutes like I do when I'm at home. Like, if I'm rating movies, there's like a built-in 2.5 buff zone automatically for the theater experience. We saw Blink twice. It was okay if I watched it at home. It was awesome at the theater. We saw Sinners, the horror movie. I'm not really into scary movies. I thought it'd be stupid. It was elite in the theater. I left the theater thinking that's the best movie I've ever seen. Like, step aside Titanic. That was incredible.
Wow.
If I had seen that at home, it's probably like a 5 out of 10.
Do you have you don't have the big screen, do you?
We have a big-ish screen. I think it's like 65.
Okay.
We have a smaller living room, so I'm close enough in proximity. It feels big.
Right. And now they're doing the movies where, I mean, they're showing movies at these theaters that the screens are even bigger. You have the IMAX. I have not had that experience. I mean, the theater experience in general was just shocking, right? And then the big screen TVs at home, they can't compare. But now with the IMAX, it's unbelievable. It really is.
I've never been to an IMAX.
I haven't.
I've been to the Cosm in Dallas.
Well, they're showing movies there too.
Really?
Yes.
They're doing movies there now?
There are
Okay,
movies
that would be an experience. All right, my other thing on a Three Things Thursday, Akron football. Maction, making headlines nationwide. Not because of their players' talent or overall record from a season ago. They are running a promotion, and this is amazing. Make history and be the lucky season ticket holder to design the opening drive of our home opener when we host Robert Morris. That's from Akron Football. Essentially, if you purchase season tickets, which you can get as low as like $75, $75, you can be a season ticket holder for Akron Football.
That's a steal.
Okay? If you purchase season tickets, you go into a raffle. The winner of this raffle is going to get to be the offensive coordinator for the opening drive of the home opener of Akron Football. You get to call the plays.
Now, do you get to call the plays with the headset on, or do you get to work with the head? Like, they're really going to let you get the headset on? You think so?
That's a great question, because it just said the language is one lucky fan will be able to script the opening drive in our home opener.
I was looking this up when I saw you put it on there, and I thought, and that's how it is, right? In football, you script the opening drive, right? The first 10, 15, whatever. And I was thinking, what a great way to incentivize people to get season tickets. Oh, I want to call the plays. I've done Madden before. I'm going to throw a bomb.
Right.
But I think you would think it's something where you can see how the sausage is made. You can work with him. But it'd be interesting if they really let him make the sausage, too, to some random fan.
Dude, it is taking off. It is a brilliant, genius, high-level promotion.
Oh, yeah.
They are going to sell out of their season ticket allotment. Now, how many of those season ticket holders are actually going to watch a game in that stadium remains to be seen. Probably not that many. But in the first drive, like, what if it goes really well?
Yeah, you get to script the opening drive. I mean,
7-play, 60-yard drive, 3 or 4 minutes off the clock, touchdown.
plus that's just a cool experience for a fan. Like, to be with the coach and the offensive coordinator and actually try to help script it, like, I don't know, season ticket holder, what value? Maybe they could have a lot of ball knowledge, but I just think it's such a great promotion because I can see the memes already. Opening drive goes really well, 7 plays, 70 yards, touchdown. Hey, we got a new coordinator, on X or whatever.
Hire this guy.
See the memes, yes.
All right, what are you drawing up? If you hypothetical, you win this raffle. It's Akron, it's Oklahoma State, it's Texas Tech, it's whoever. What's the first play you're running out of the gate?
So after kickoff, and we get the whole opening script. I mean, I'm probably taking a deep shot first play.
Right away.
Right
you and
away.
everybody else in America.
Exactly. First play, I mean, I want to take a deep shot because why not? That's my thought. I mean, I've played Madden before. That's the only play calling I've ever done.
Okay, so you're hitting all go, all right?
Oh, yeah.
4 verticals, just chuck it.
Absolutely let it rip.
That's
Yeah.
a high-risk, high-reward play.
Mm-hmm.
What if you throw an interception? Like, then your 15 minutes of fame is over.
It's over. I'm willing to take that risk on a deep shot. And then you're 2nd and 10 most likely, right? Most likely result of a deep shot play 1 is incompletion.
All right, so 2nd and 10, what are you running? I've got the whole series scripted in my brain. I know exactly what I'm doing.
2nd and 10, I'm probably got to get the quarterback moving his feet out of the pocket and have an option for a quick completion or run a little bit, go a few yards, move the chains, maybe get hit, get into the game a little bit. Then we're talking money down, 3rd and probably long since we took that deep shot. And then 3rd and long, you've got to come up with something in your bag right there. I mean, I'm thinking you probably need to run some type of trick play because I don't know anything enough about football to be like, we're going to run this slant, this post. I mean, I'm more intrigued on your offensive coordinator skills and what you've got up your sleeve.
Oh, bro, I'm going to set that defense up. I've got a home run hitter in my back pocket.
Let's hear
All
the
right,
first series.
down, inside zone. We're setting the table. We're establishing the ground game. Hope to get 3 or 4 yards. So we're looking at 2nd and 6, 2nd and 7. Now, based off of our personnel package, they're thinking, okay, they're going to run it again. I'm coming in tight end heavy set, okay?
Okay.
I'm assuming I have a dual threat quarterback. If I don't, I'll find one off the street, somebody who looks fast.
You need dual threat.
So we're running a simple option play. K-State used to run this play from time to time. I mean, like once or twice a year, but every time they ran it, it led to like a 40 or 50-yard gain, depending upon the speed they had at tight end. So they would run a simple option play, like old school option, right? Quarterback, fullback, running back, quarterback swings out to his right. It's a simple speed option, okay? But then about 3 or 4 yards into the play, not downfield but laterally, the quarterback would retreat, okay? So he's backpedaling. And sneaking out somewhere along the way would be his tight end. And I kid you not, every single time that tight end was wide open. There was not a defender within 20 yards of that tight end. So it's kind of like an old school but now new school RPO where you're running this option play, quarterback, 2 steps back, boom. He bombs it down the seam, wide open tight end. The rest is history. Probably a touchdown.
You should get some season tickets. Put your name in the hat. Akron, who do they play week 1?
Robert Morris.
Well, that is a way. I mean, you're not going to see a Big 12. We're not handing over an opening drive. But Akron, Robert Morris, I mean, these are high-level players still, Division I players, but they're not generating that same interest.
Robert Morris might beat Akron. They might beat Akron. They're an FCS program. But Akron's not at a point where they're stomping FCS competition.
Okay. I was going to say, I'm not familiar with either program that much in their levels of success, but that I know is a way to generate some interest for the game. And so Akron football, get a season ticket. You've got your drive. You've got your drive ready.
Akron went 5-7 last year, by the way. They are coached by Joe Moorhead, who was the offensive coordinator at Penn State before Andy Kotelnicki.
Okay.
And then he goes to Mississippi State. He's the head coach there for a couple of years. He gets fired. Things are not going great at Akron, but he does have them on the right track. 2-10 to 4-8 to 5-7 last year. But yeah, that's my script, man. That play. I'm a huge fan of screenplays. I love a good wide receiver screen, not like these tunnel screens like you see or these bubble screens on the outside. I like a good old-fashioned like wide receiver screen right over the middle. That's another play. K-State would only run it once or twice a year with like Quincy Morgan, James Terry. They used to run it sometimes with Tyler Lockett. And every time it feels like if there wasn't an illegal man downfield penalty, it was a touchdown.
There you go. So you don't even need the whole script. You're scoring early.
We're scoring on the second
You're
play.
scoring on the second play.
Backup tight end, wide open. All right. He's Will Connerly. I'm James Westling. Countdown to kickoff. UCF is the team that we look at today. We are presented by Modelo on a Three Things Thursday. We'll get into thing number 3, which is the top 25 trap door. That's coming up next. We are powered by Modelo, exclusively on TuneIn, and you're watching us on Big 12 Studios.
Jackson's in trouble now. David Bailey, he is a sack machine.
This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. We are brought to you, the full-time fan, by our friends at Modelo, where there is no off-season. The off-season does not sleep. It only means research. And today, countdown to kickoff, UCF, the Knights. The team that we look at today will be answering a lot of questions, like what do we know, what don't we know, what has to happen for UCF to have a breakthrough year, camp battles to watch. The position battles for me with UCF is fascinating, especially as they look to replace a guy like Malachi Lawrence. They had 5 different quarterbacks taking snaps last year. We'll get an update on some injuries from Matt Murschel, our UCF insider, writes for the Orlando Sentinel and Tribune. He'll have all the updates from this week in camp. So 3 things Thursday, and Will's thing that he brought to the table is the top 25 trapdoor, because the coaches poll is out. We went over that yesterday, but remind us how many teams the Big 12 got in. How does that compare to last year? And then what's on deck for the league this year?
So 4 teams in the coaches poll this year. Last year there were 5. And they finished with 5 as well.
So preseason last year there were 5. This year there are 4. And last year we finished with 5.
Yes, but 5 different teams. Hence this segment, the top 25 trapdoor. So the 4 teams that were in the top 25, you had Texas Tech, no surprise there. And then BYU, Utah, and Houston, which I think pretty widely accepted that all 4 of those teams should be ranked, and they were. And again, this is the coaches poll, and you noted yesterday AP could have a difference or two, especially when you get past 15. And again, I mean, this is preseason rankings for football. A lot of it can change. You saw 5 different teams from the first 5 last year, but a part of this is who is going to be those teams that the top 25 didn't recognize right now that will be in the top 25 at the end of the season, which is the most important thing, because we see a couple years ago Arizona State. Are they in the vicinity of the top 25 before the season? No, but they're in it then, and that's what matters. So I generated some teams, or thought of some teams that could be great candidates, so great that they were even getting some recognition on these polls from the outside looking in, but just I think, and they won't be a surprise to James Wesley, let's be honest, because you know the Big 12, right? But I do think from a national perspective as well, which, again, the main audience of this show understanding, love of the Big 12, but I'm predicting these teams will have that national coverage and be on the biggest stage come the end of the season. So I generated 4 that I could see get into the top 25 at some point this year that aren't in it now.
Okay, so just to remind people what last year's preseason poll looked like, Arizona State was preseason number 11. They finished the year unranked. Kansas State was preseason number 17. They finished the year unranked. Iowa State was preseason number 22, unranked. Texas Tech was preseason number 23. They're in the college football playoff. That's 4. Now, this is the AP poll. You're going off the coaches poll, so there's one more team that was ranked preseason. Was it Utah, I'm assuming?
I think so.
That was ranked, and they finished ranked. But it does highlight, like, TCU actually finished last season post-bowls, because remember, they had an epic bowl game against USC. TCU finished in the top 25. They finished 25th. Houston finished number 22 last season. Again, this is after all the bowl games. Utah 14, BYU 11, and Texas Tech finished at number 7. So the Big 12, this magnifies the point that the preseason polls do matter. Now, in terms of what those teams may look like, it could be a lot different. So who are the teams that you think are excluded from the coaches poll that either should be in or will be in by the end of the year?
I think a team that certainly will be in is Arizona. Arizona was the first team that comes to mind, because not just that they won 9 games last year, that I feel when you look at it, and I think a lot of people that cover the Big 12, Arizona and Houston feel very similar to me. Houston's represented in the top 25 right now. Arizona isn't, but I think both of those players, both of those teams are very, very similar, and Arizona brings back a lot of firepower. Most notably, the most important position for them is covered. So I think, yes, they're unranked right now, but I think that they could jump into the rankings pretty quickly, and I think that the national respect for them we're going to be able to see in September because they play BYU. And so I think that will be a great barometer test. I thought it was interesting talking about these teams, and you have that mindset that, hey, there is a team that could run the table in the Big 12 because there are a couple of teams that are pretty good that don't have Tech on the schedule, things like that. I think that for Arizona, you obviously have to avoid some bad losses. You play Washington State. You have to take care of things like that. But if you can get to that Tech game with just one loss or no losses, I think that you're in a really good position to be ranked. And BYU and Tech, it's obviously tough for the schedule, but I think they're talented enough, and they've got the best quarterback in the league, according to some.
When I look at the Big 12 schedules for this year, and the Big 12 has a near impossible task when they build the scheduling matrix of looking ahead to the future. They do this in 4-year chunks. 4 years ago, this league wasn't even, in terms of membership, what it is today. So building this matrix was a very tall order. But what they tried to do was predict, in some ways, call them Polymarket 2.0, who was going to be good and who wasn't. Well, that got totally thrown out of whack when BYU goes 23-4 in back-to-back seasons, when a team that 4 years ago was winning a Big 12 championship, last year they go 6-6 in Kansas State. Houston wasn't even in this league. Nobody knew Houston would be this good right away. And the same could be said for the Cougs. Texas Tech and their reemergence. Like 4 years ago, it was TCU and Kansas State playing in the Big 12 championship game. So when you look at the scheduling matrix, what it has done is it has opened the door, in my opinion, and I don't think this is a bad thing, for several Big 12 teams to be 11-1, maybe 12-0,
Yes.
10-2, when the league is all said and done. I think we are going to see in a league that has hung its hat on competitive balance, and sure, it'll probably lead the nation again in scoring margin or the smallest scoring margin. It'll have the most entertaining football in the fourth quarter in the country. But in terms of like the gap between wins and losses, I think this is going to be a bigger year than ever.
I agree. And I think on the wild point for the Wildcats, when you just magnify that more, I mean, Arizona at BYU right now, that's the second game of the year for Arizona after they play Northern Arizona. They're going to go into that game 1-0, coming off a comfortable win. What do you think, I don't even know if it's out, but the spread for a game like that would be Arizona at BYU? One of the bigger games of the season in the Big 12 happening September 12th. It could be out, so I could be asking you a factual question instead of an opinion. But just off the top of your head, I'm thinking that cannot be more than a one-score game, right?
I was thinking I was going to say just off the cuff 6.5.
Right.
Now, Sports Illustrated, and this is from like early in the summer. Their projected spread had BYU at -8.
Okay.
So to me, and I agree with your point that that's a one-score game, at least when it comes to the line. So who are some of the other teams? You said Wildcats. For a second, I thought you were talking about Kansas
You
State.
almost got excited, right? So Arizona's one of those teams.
Okay.
The other team for me is TCU. I think talent-wise, they have a ton of it. You mentioned they finished last season ranked. Now, they obviously have a much different headman, signal caller now after Hoover goes to Indiana, but I think that they've got talent at that position. I think they're also being a little bit slept on just because of the fact that when you have a new quarterback and new offensive coordinator, the newness sometimes scares people in the media, people who make rankings in the unknown, but there's a lot of talent with Craig, and I think overall they have national opportunities pretty early on, right, to go over and again have one of those primetime Dublin games against North Carolina. We saw what happened in a game like that last year that can just kind of get people excited for the Horned Frogs in week 0. I think a big week 0 performance, and you're already entering that top 25 discussion. So similar to Arizona, I think the path happens pretty early in your schedule. For Arizona, win at BYU, you're going to be in the top 25. For TCU, I think that they can put together some good performances, and obviously they visit Arizona, a team I just mentioned, in November. I circled that game as one of the more exciting games to watch, and I think probably it could be an elimination game for one of those teams for sure, for either of those to have Big 12 title hopes.
Yeah, TCU is a team that is trending up in my eyes that I think people are sleeping on, and a couple of reasons. Number one, they were 6-4 at one point last year. They won their last 3 games. 2 of those last 3 games were against top 25 opponents. One on the road at Houston, 17-14. Then they beat USC in their bowl game 30-27. And the running back that finally got the touches, Jeremy Payne, just went bananas.
He brought the pain for sure.
Set a TCU, I think, single game like total yardage record, or at least it was the most, I believe, since either Miller that 23 season or LaDainian Tomlinson back in the early 2000s. Jeremy Payne with this new offensive system is going to shine. And then I look at their losses. They had 2 games that, frankly, they should have won. They lost at Arizona State early in the year, September 26th, last season. Josh Hoover threw 1 billion interceptions. They lose the game 27-24. Then they lose to Iowa State at home, 20-17. That's a game they'd love to have back. Same type of deal. They lost the field position battle. They got bit by the turnovers. Iowa State with their discipline and fundamentally like sound warrior-type mentality, it was just a terrible matchup. This year, with TCU cleaning up those things, and then they also had some nice wins that they didn't have the year before. They went 9-4 back-to-back seasons, but 2 years ago they had a cupcake schedule. Last year, they stomped North Carolina. They beat SMU, who was coming off a college football playoff appearance. They took down West Virginia on the road, Houston on the road, beat USC in the bowl game. Like, they had more quality wins last year, and they have way more coming back than I think people realize on the surface, because the headline is you lose Josh Hoover in the portal. That's it, full stop. That's the narrative. There's so much other things that TCU has going for them.
They do. They have a lot going. I think their offense will be explosive. The other 2 I had just real quick, Oklahoma State, I think for obvious reasons, they dominated the offseason. They got one of the best quarterbacks to come in and just get North Texas, those guys in Denton, to move up a little bit. I think that they have an opportunity, and that could be a really fun story. And then Arizona State as well. I think people should hear me out on this one, because they play Texas Tech, they play BYU, and they play Arizona. Are they going to win all those games?
This is Arizona State.
Yes.
Okay. And they also play Texas A&M in the non-conference.
Yes,
they have
week
probably
2.
the toughest schedule in the league.
And that's why I'm bringing it up. They have a very tough schedule. They play probably the top 3 teams in the Big 12, definitely the top 2 in Texas Tech and BYU. And then you also have Arizona on the road on your schedule as well. You're also at Tech. You're also at BYU and A&M. So it's not just those 4 teams. It's that you're doing those teams on the road. And so I do think that Arizona State, just with their schedule, if you go 2-2 in those 4 tough games, you may have a chance to be in the top 25. So I brought them up as well.
I love that, because the voters love quality.
Quality wins.
Quality wins. By the way, Akron football has sold out their suite inventory for the first time in program history. All of their season ticket, their suites are completely sold out. They have surged past their annual ticket sales goals for the entire season in just 24 hours since announcing that season ticket holder raffle winner gets to draw up the team's opening drive.
Shout out to the marketing director there. That is phenomenal.
Brilliant idea. He's Will Connerly. He is in for Ari Timken and Taman Turner. I'm James Westling. Coming up next, countdown to kickoff. Our series rolls on. UCF, camp battles to watch, injury updates, depth chart locks, before we chat with Matt Murschel next hour from the Orlando Sentinel. We are powered by Modelo, exclusively on TuneIn, and watched on Big 12 Studios.
Malachi Lawrence ends that drive for K-State.
He is swallowed up behind the line of scrimmage. Malachi Lawrence, a loss of 2. And
third down and long, trouble on the edge, and they go back to back. This one belongs to Malachi Lawrence.
Johnson on a 4th and 6. Scans. Backpedaling. Going the opposite way. Now he curls around the edge. In pursuit. UCF gets to him. Malachi Lawrence, one of their 2 vaunted pass rushers on the edge, ends that drive for K-State.
He's got our antennas up. And the antenna goes down. Malachi Lawrence again. This time, his first sack of the season.
That's just absolute force right there by Malachi Lawrence.
It's a play if you're UCF. Here's Pryor, and he is swallowed up behind the line of scrimmage. Malachi Lawrence, a loss of 2, and
One more play before the quarter break. Fox leaves the pocket to the numbers and track down. Malachi Lawrence finishes 3 here in Orlando with his UCF 9th.
We are Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio on a Three Things Thursday. This is kind of a Friday for us because tomorrow will be a best of show. We are all out and about tomorrow, so you'll hear all of our interviews from the course of the week. Been talking with, we've almost tracked down every single athletic director, and we definitely have that goal in mind between now and the start of the season. So that would include Terry Mahajer eventually from UCF, who brings in Scott Frost. This is year 2 of the Scott Frost era in Orlando. They go 5-7 last year. They go 2-7 in Big 12 play, and they miss bowl eligibility by 1 game. But they were actually invited to play in a bowl because so many teams bypassed playing in bowl games. But they said no. But the season in this deep dive, to me, wasn't as bad as their record. They had like a strength of record rating that was around 70th nationally, so a middle tier team. They had 4 different quarterbacks that started games last year. Taven Jackson, Cam Fancher, Ja'Cory Brown, all 4 hit the portal. So a complete quarterback room reset. But the fix, and this is probably the headline, is James Madison transfer Alonzo Barnett III. He was a little bit beat up towards the end of last year, had an off-season surgery, I should say, that went really well. He's 100% healthy. They brought in 32 total transfers. On 3 ranks the class 42nd nationally, which is 10th in the Big 12. 24/7 Sports has it even lower. But they went with volume and experience over like blue chip pedigree. What's your take on UCF in terms of what we know and what we don't know?
Well, Barnett is, I think, the biggest no. And I don't think you can always say that about a transfer quarterback. But I don't think he's just any transfer quarterback. I mean, he was Sun Belt Player of the Year, over 5,000 career passing yards. He has experience. I think this, you basically brought it up. We didn't know last year their ability to pass the ball at a consistent rate. It wasn't there. And I think a lot of this team hinges on Alonzo Barnett III because of the fact that they struggled at that position last year. You brought up the strength of record, which I would like to think would be because they played pretty solid defense, especially defending the pass. So I think year 2 for Frost, there's going to be more continuity. You have to remember, he brought a lot of people in, and a lot of those names that he brought in 2025 are going to be back for 26. So just system-wise, continuity-wise, it was a while after that first stint that he comes back to UCF to try to lead the way. And then, again, those numbers, I know you're a numbers guy. You were looking at their numbers defending the pass. I mean, some of the best in the country. I mean, some historic level stuff. And so there's no surprise with Frost and his ability to coach that position after playing it at such a high level too. But I think that should be huge. And then also the schedule. I mean, we know the schedule is going to provide some early answers for them because they have some opportunity to put together some competence, I think. Bethune-Cookman, Pittsburgh, Georgia State. I think that and then TCU, of course, early on in Big 12 play. That's going to be something where it really breaks it down. I would say that's the biggest game of their season, just because that can kind of either show they're going to go one direction or another direction against TCU. And if they get that, they would start turning some heads.
Their secondary was top 4 in the country. I'm fighting through some hiccups. This is a first for me. I have never had the hiccups on air, live, radio, TV.
I didn't know I get to witness history today.
And you are witnessing history.
Man.
So, I'll power through. But
they were top 4 in the country in,
and I'm sorry, top 4.
Their secondary
in the Big 12, passing defense.
Passing defense, okay.
Yards allowed. But they didn't have a lot of takeaways, and that's a major point of emphasis this offseason. So, Scott Frost year 2, this is what he said about how year 2 is going to be different from year 1.
And that would be cut number 4.
It's a lot different. Year 2s are always better than year 1s. I think last year was a uniquely tough year 1. with the spring transfer portal, with the portal open when new coaches got jobs. I just got done telling a story about how I walked from my press conference to my office for the first time and had somebody waiting in the office that represented one of the players who was on the team. I didn't even know who the player was yet, and trying to negotiate right then.
Like what? I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, this year we were able to get to know our team, know which kids are about the right things, which kids we wanted to retain. We did a really good job of that, and then adding around them. We have guys in the building that understand where we're trying to go and our approach to doing it, players and coaches, and year 2 feels a lot better.
I think that comment about a player walking into his office and he didn't know who he was says a lot about just how, new and I don't want to say inexperienced, but everything was just so green last season.
And his emphasis in that clip as well was so much on we were installing everything. We were getting everything developed, getting guys to understand the system. I mean, historically in sports, you see a year 2 is a huge jump opportunity. Year 1, you lay the foundation. Year 2, it's a really big jump. Maybe it's different because he had been here before, but it's still a whole new cast of characters, a whole new slew of assistants, and a whole new conference. Let's be honest. I think that's a thing we'll get into a little bit in a moment here in this segment. Is one thing we know is that the transition to the Big 12 has been tough on the gridiron for UCF, but they're installing things and they've got that returning production, more continuity in year 2, so I'd love to hear that clip.
Who are the position battles that you're most intrigued by?
Receiver. I mean, it's just when I look through their receivers, my biggest question, so I guess it's a battle, but it also goes in the category of what we don't know, who's their number 1 receiver? I mean, we'll ask that on our next segment to see, but there's some candidates for sure. And I think receiver's one of the more volatile positions just in football because one guy could step up and take the reins there. And I don't think there's a true one that jumps off the depth chart. Jonathan Bibbs, I think, is a guy that is turning some heads. The Birmingham, Alabama kid who transferred from Louisiana Monroe, played a dozen games for the Warhawks, only started 3 times, but everything I'm reading, people are high on him, and he's probably going to be a starter. And then returning in the slot for them, Dwayne Thomas Jr., I mean, he had some games where he was targeted quite often. So those guys, I think, battle, yes, who's going to step up and be that number 1 receiver, because I think that's up for grabs right now.
And Dwayne Thomas, this will be his 2nd year in the program. He was a transfer from Charlotte, where he was recruited by Biff Poggi, the now Michigan. I think he actually coached a game last year as like part of the Moore suspension. But Dwayne Thomas is only about 5'8", 5'9", but he is a lightning bug. The position battle that I highlight is on the defense. I look at who's going to replace Malachi Lawrence. Malachi Lawrence, drafted by the Cowboys, first-round NFL draft pick. Also, they lose Nigel Kelly, who is honorable mention All Big 12. Who's going to get after the quarterback? Former Kansas defensive end Dean Miller. I've got to ask Matt Murschel about that situation because he was fighting for an extra year of eligibility. And then some returning options are banged up. Sincere Edwards is recovering from a foot injury. Akron transfer Bruno Dahl missed most of spring ball because he was injured. And the defense, the passing defense, top 4 in the Big 12, top 25 nationally, they only had 9 interceptions, and they only had 5 fumble recoveries. They did not generate a lot of takeaways last year. They were rock solid, but they just couldn't make those big splash plays. So Alex Grinch, the DC in year 2, has said this offseason that takeaways is the number 1 defensive priority for camp. And for me, a healthy edge room in terms of getting after the quarterback is where it starts.
Yeah, replacing a first-round pick, that's always difficult. Going to the Cowboys, Lawrence. But I think another aspect of that too, and you bring up Thomas, I mean, he probably is their top receiver, but I still think there's room to be had.
Yeah, he's built more like a slot guy.
Yes.
Right? Like he's their Coy Aiken, right, of Texas Tech. He's their elusive route runner, quick, speedy, but in terms of like it's 3rd and 5, you've got to get a first down. He's not their possession Jordan Tyson type build.
No.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. Why sorry?
Well, you were talking about the other guys that could be that guy.
Well, no, I'm saying I think Thomas probably that guy right now. Rest up for grabs. But I was saying to go to another position. Totally agree on the defense. They need to continue to build on that. Running back as well is, I think, something where it's open, and I think there's multiple guys battling in camp right now.
You and I have something in common. We're both very polite. So we'll probably spend the next 2 hours apologizing to one another throughout the course of the show.
Perhaps.
He's Will Connerly. I'm James Westling. I'm going to negotiate and battle with my diaphragm during the commercial break and get back on track. These hiccups are killing me. Not to continue to highlight them, but I will get them removed. There's a bunch of tricks you can do. Hold your breath, swallow 3 times. I don't know. My wife's always talking to our kids about it. I didn't get the message.
I'll apologize now.
See, there
sorry
it is.
for you.
All right, we're talking UCF football today. It is our countdown to kickoff series. What do we know? What don't we know? Some position battles that we just ran through to watch. And we'll ask Matt Murschel his thoughts on all of the above, the UCF and beat writer for the Orlando Sentinel. He comes up next. Matt Murschel joins the program. He's Will. I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio, sponsored by Modelo.
Dropped in the backfield. Najee Kelly.
Sets up first down they've got for Cincinnati from the 8. Quarterback draw with Sorsby, and he gets swallowed up immediately. Najee Kelly atones for Russell.
But he stays on side, right? He's not jumping off side. He's doing a good job in the passing game.
First down, Andrew Paul on his first carry. Swallowed at the line of scrimmage.
But a good job up front, too, beating the block. 55, John Walker.
Editor.
Oh, look out. Kelly made the hit. The ball comes loose. Rodney Laura has it, and the officials say he's also got a touchdown.
Talked about him before. I mean, he's a problem. He's just a problem waiting to happen.
Steps up. And scooped up. It's going to be a quick 6.
Make plays. Here's Kelly Lawson right in the middle. He bluffs up and then drops back. So that when the defensive end knocks that ball out of the quarterback's hands, it's almost like a blocked kick. Daniels will give to Williams, and Williams denied. Najee Kelly, the former Miami Hurricane, coming up with a stop.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Watched on the Big 12 Fast channel, Big 12 Studios. We are sponsored by Modelo, part of our Countdown to Kickoff series, highlighting a different Big 12 school every single day. And today it's the UCF Knights. What we know, what we don't know, some position battles to work through at camp, injury news, and the guy that has all the stuff is Matt Murschel, the UCF and college football writer for the Orlando Sentinel, a friend of the program. Matt, I would love to start with just some eligibility stuff, because I remember the Dean Miller, the KU transfer, he was trying to get an extra year of eligibility, but he's not the only one. So who could be on the field this fall that maybe UCF sees as like a bonus?
Yeah, because of the U.S. District Court ruling on last Saturday, with allowing some players to have the class of 22 to have another year of eligibility, UCF had a couple players last year that they had supposedly used up their eligibility. Linebacker Cole Kozlowski and safety Philip Dunham. Both those guys were kind of eligible under this new ruling, and found out yesterday that Cole Kozlowski is going to more than likely be back unless something happens with the appeal from the NCAA or whatever. He's was on campus yesterday. He was working through some getting the paperwork going through. I talked to a source at UCF who said that they're really excited about trying to get him back. This was kind of an added bonus. They weren't anticipating this. They figured he used up all his eligibility. He was a guy that was second on the team, the leading tackler on the team behind Lewis Carter, and a guy who brings a lot of experience. And talking to the source who was familiar with it, he said that Kozlowski's probably going to start at the bottom of the lineup in the linebacker room and try to have to work his way up, because the last few months he hasn't really been doing camps or anything like that. He's just preparing for the NFL, but never found an opportunity with the team. So this kind of opens the door for adding another piece. And UCF, from what I've been told, is excited. They're looking forward to adding another body like that. And no word yet on whether they're going to try to get another player or two. But if everything holds out, they feel like this is a big piece for them moving forward into the season.
Hey, Matt, nice to meet you. Glad you're joining us here on our Countdown to Kickoff, highlighting UCF. I just want to ask, because you're with the program every single day, or pretty close to it. You're closer than most, right? And I just want to say, what is the biggest difference for you and what you've noticed for UCF between Frost's first season and now entering year 2 from your day-to-day coverage with the team?
Well, I think the biggest difference is just it's more relaxed. I think Scott Frost feels more comfortable going into year 2 than he did on year 1. You got to remember that when he arrived at UCF, they hired him in the middle of the transfer portal window being open. He had to basically hit the ground running, had to go sign as many players as they possibly could. I think he got almost 70 newcomers added to the roster. They didn't have a GM. They really had to go out and hire a whole new staff. It was a challenge for him. And Scott's talked about this many times, that it's one of the reasons why he just felt all the time that he's constantly on the move, trying to make sure things were being handled. This time around, they've brought in a GM. The staff is pretty much back intact. He's just looks like the guy that we saw back in 2016, 2017. A lot more confident, a lot more collective, understands exactly what's going on. And now they've had that first year in the Big 12. He's got a better handle about kind of what's to be expected. So they changed up some of their ideas when it came to the portal and how they recruited some people. They wanted to bring in more experience, more toughness, and they feel like they got those pieces to maybe help them out this year.
Matt, when you look at the offense, what positions are most up for grabs? I mean, we know Alonzo Barnett III was brought in to be the guy at quarterback, and Dylan Wade is an All-American tight end. Elsewhere, who are the front runners in terms of positions and guys that might lead the way?
Well, I think you're looking at the offensive line is going to be a big question mark. They lost 4 players. They brought in Preston Cushman is the only returner. He's back. I think that'll help them out. He's a face I think people will be looking for on the line. At the wide receiver position, Dwayne Thomas Jr. was one of the top receivers. He's a guy I think they feel like can really help them out. You also think of Wade Charles. Wade Charles is a guy they feel like can help them out as well at the wide receiver position. And then running backs, all new. Duke Watson is a transfer they brought in from Louisville, who they feel like could really be the key piece for them. Landon Chambers is another guy who came in. He was one that was from Central Arkansas, rushed for over 1,000 yards, big body, much different kind of running style than Duke Watson. They feel like those two guys have an opportunity to really make an impact, in the running game as well. So, the important piece for them especially on the offensive side of the football, was getting Alonzo Barnett in third. They needed a good quarterback. Quarterback has been a position of need for several years now. It's one of the big struggles. So if they can get him going, those other pieces around him, they feel like have enough talent to really kind of help them out at the skill positions.
And how quickly have you seen him establish himself when we talk about the quarterback position as a leader for this offense? Because there's a lot of excitement coming in. I mean, very talented, like you mentioned, and a centerpiece of what hopes to be a makeover. But what does that leadership look like so far?
Well, you could see it definitely. We got a chance to speak with Alonzo on the first day of practice, and there's just a bigger poise there. You know, when a guy steps up to the podium and he's talking about leadership and some of the things that the program has put established ahead of time, you see the difference. I mean, not to take anything away from one of the guys who were here last year, but Alonzo's got the experience. He's a 2-year starter. He won Sun Belt Offensive Player of the Year last year, led the James Madison to a Sun Belt Conference title, got to the college football playoff. Really you could see that poise, and that's something that they really needed. I talked to Scott back in February, and he said, no offense to the guys who are here, but we need someone to step up in the huddle and can basically command the huddle, make sure they're able to go out and do the things they need to do. When there's pressure, when things aren't going right, who's going to be that voice that's going to kind of get everyone together and bond? That's where they hope Alonzo can kind of do that thing. He seems to have that kind of poise. He's a much older guy, and I think that's something that's going to help them out, especially when you look at a quarterback room that's got a good mix of some experienced guys and two true freshmen that they really would like to see develop over the next couple of years.
Talking with Matt Marshall from the Orlando Sentinel here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Defensively, where does it start for UCF on that side of the ball?
Well, defensively, it's always going to come up front, the front line. And you look at the fact that, they've got to play some pieces. They lost Malachi Lawrence and Nigel Kelly at the end spots. They both went on to the NFL. And they've got to bring in some new guys there. Isaiah Nixon and Sincere Edwards are two names that have been, leading that group. You look at their defensive tackles. Horace Lockett is a guy that only played 4 games last year, but was one of their best defenders. They get him back on the field. They feel like that's going to be huge for them. Linebacker core. I mean, they returned Lewis Carter at middle linebacker. He was their leading tackler last year. If they get Cole Kozlowski back and he's 100% and the way he was last year, that would be huge. They also brought in about 5 or 6 different other players from other schools that had experience at the linebacker position. And secondary is really where they're at their best. They brought back 4 starters. They brought back plenty of talent and depth at that position. They feel like that's a spot that's really going to help them out. One of the best ways they improved last year was in their passing defense, and they feel like they'll be just as better including this year.
You brought up the word pressure when we talked about the quarterback position and also Coach Frost. I just wonder, in Orlando, is there a feeling of pressure right now? How much pressure is on Scott Frost this season?
Well, I think there's more than there was when we first got here. I mean, you look at the fact that this program hasn't been to a bowl game in the last 2 or 3 years. That starts to put a little bit of pressure on. They've got to find a way to get back there. Plus the fact since the move to the Big 12, there hasn't been nearly as much success as maybe some of the other programs that came in from the American. You look at how Houston's done. You look at what BYU's doing. Cincinnati. You've got to kind of find a way to contend and be there. You see the other school able to do that. You want to be able to find that kind of success as well. I'm not saying that he's on the hot seat or anything. But if there's a challenge, if something happens and they don't get to a bowl game this year, if they take a step back, I think a lot of people are going to start to wonder, okay, what needs to be done to get this program moving forward? You got to remember, year 2, his first time around at UCF, he led the program to its best season at 13-0 and a spot, in the New Year's 6 game. So, he's already said many times over that's not going to happen. It's hard to duplicate that under the current, college landscape. But, again, just to get to maybe 7 wins, 8 wins, I think that would be huge for them because I think it would give them an opportunity to say, okay, we're making strides, we're finding a way to get there. We've got the blueprint now. Can we just take it to the next step?
Matt, in terms of injuries, how healthy is this football team for the first week of camp?
So far, it's been healthy. Scott said there's a couple players that were kind of banged up. They had a defensive tackle, R.J. Jackson, who was kind of a little bit limited. They had a safety that was banged up, and Jalen Duffy, a guy that they said will probably be back in the next couple days. He said relatively they're healthy right now, and that's huge for them. Like I said, they've got to stay healthy, especially at the quarterback position, at the skill position, on their offensive line. They've got to stay healthy in that regard. So it'll be interesting to see over the next few weeks, what they're doing and limiting maybe some of those guys to make sure they don't burn them out, make sure that they don't get banged up. That was something that kind of hampered them a little bit last year. They had injuries to several guys they lost for the season early on, and that kind of hurt them as they went especially deeper into the season.
You brought up Dwayne Thomas. We were talking about him last segment, just his size and his ability to run out of the slot a lot of the times and catch a lot of passes, and that top target coming back. First of all, do you believe he'll be the top target this season? And who are some other names in that receiver room that we should look out for? Because it does seem the transfer portal, like you mentioned with the offensive line, also was hit with that receiver room as well.
Yeah, going into his first year back, that receiver group was unknown. They didn't bring back any production for the previous year, and most of the guys that had limited, action at the college level. So it was important for them to develop that room. And Dwayne Thomas Jr. stepped up in that role, became that number one receiver. I think he's going to be even better than he was last year. I think he was trying to get his feet on the ground. This time around, he's got so many players around him that can maybe take a little pressure off him, maybe take away some of those double teams. Waden Charles was a true freshman last year who really emerged late in the season. He's a guy that they feel like can be that number two guy. Was an important piece that they brought back. They brought in a transfer in Josh Derry from Monmouth. He's been exceptional since he's got here. In fact, every time we talk to people, they just keep mentioning Josh Derry. They say he's a dynamic receiver, a guy who's got all sorts of skill set, and he's a good leader. He's the guy who's been in the workout rooms at 6 a.m. In fact, some of the other receivers say, all of a sudden I see this guy in the weight room at 6 a.m. and I start thinking I need to show up at 6 a.m. And then they start kind of all showing up. And he said that's an important piece to what Scott really wants for this team. Is he wants this to be a player-led team, and that's how you get that. Is you bring in guys like Josh Derry. So Josh Derry will be another one I think that'll be a huge piece for them. Day Farmer was a guy that they brought in last year, a local kid that got hurt, wasn't able to play the whole season. He got hurt in fall camp. He's back and healthy. They feel like he could be another piece that will help them out as well. So this is a group that's got like lots of talent in there as well, but works out well too also with the tight end position with Dylan Wade, who was one of the top tight ends last year. Dylan's a guy they feel like could be a good target and help them out as well in the receiving group.
Matt, who's had the most reps with the ones at running back? Because Tavion Swint was a really highly touted recruit who missed last season, if I understand correctly, with an injury. Landon Chambers from Central Arkansas, Duke Watson from Louisville, guys that have also like really impressive resumes and numbers.
Yeah, well, Duke's got the first to work with the first team, but again, we only get like a limited amount of time to see, about 20 minutes. But he's had a lot of work with the first team. Tavion Swint's had a lot of work with the first team as well. I think what they'd really like to do, and this is something that Scott has done in the past, is he doesn't just have one running back that's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher. He takes a lot of different guys and uses them in different spots. Like I mentioned, I think Landon's a guy that's going to be a short yardage, type of running back. Maybe come in when they need someone to kind of plow through for a couple yards here or there. I think it's going to be a guy that can kind of change a speed guy who's going to help break them out. They've got a few other true freshmen that they feel like maybe can add some speed as well. But I think it's going to be Duke's team. I think Duke's going to be the one who's going to step up at the top spot. But again, Frost loves to mix in and mix out guys, especially guys who can catch the ball out of the backfield. He wants to be able to use that as a weapon as well. So this is a group that's very interesting to me. I think that's got lots of dynamic that could really be a big factor for them.
Matt, you are so connected. It is you are our number one UCF guy, and we appreciate your time every time you come on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Thank you so much for the updates, and we will, like I said, man, we talk to you quite a bit, so it'll be again soon.
All right, thank you. Take care, guys.
See you, Matt. Matt Marshall, UCF college football writer for the Orlando Sentinel and Tribune, said that Duke Watson is getting most of the carries as the number one running back, which, in my opinion, that kind of checks out with my projection because he was a really good back at Louisville before he got hurt, like midway through the year. Swint was the 4-star recruit, missed last season with an injury. Chambers is the guy that I think, like, coming into the year, people had bookmarked as he has, the most yards and the most carries, but he comes from Central Arkansas, an FCS program. It sounds to me like it's going to be Watson's job to lose, at least as of now, even though it is kind of a running back by committee situation.
And it truly feels overall that improvement. After talking with Matt, the running back room, improvement. The quarterback room, improvement. It does feel that after 5 wins last year, you're expecting this team to at least be 500. Just after all we've looked at, how close he is to the squad. And it was pretty telling, too, on that running back note. The first thing when you brought up concerns or questions was immediately the offensive line. And truly, I believe that's why they've struggled from the American to the Big 12, is just the big boys up front. So if we'll see how those 4 of those 5 starters probably transfers. We'll see how those guys can push the things forward and get the James Westling guys, because you love running backs. Well, if we can get those guys running the ball well for the Knights.
Yeah, a lot of people like UCF is maybe a sleeper team.
Ooh, are you in that camp?
Not quite yet,
No?
but trending in that direction. If Cole Kozlowski is back and playing, and it sounds like, I mean, unless something else comes down the pipe that disqualifies all these guys that just got eligible, he was their second leading tackler last year. That is a huge addition that is very much under the radar.
It is. And what would qualify a sleeper? Like because I would say their expectation is probably 500, right?
Yeah, sleeper to me is
so
last
they would
year,
win 8, 9, 10.
Yep.
Okay.
That's a sleeper.
Some
8
people are
and 4.
thinking, okay.
8-4, I think, is kind of like the floor for what I would consider a breakthrough season.
A breakthrough.
Because Arizona did it last year. They go from 3 wins to 9. Houston did it last year. They go from 4 to 10. So I'm looking for something like that.
Okay.
Maybe UCF's the team. We'll find out. All right, coming up next is Kirby Hocutt, the athletic director of Texas Tech. We talked with Kirby yesterday. This will be an interview replay. You don't want to miss it. He goes over the Sorsby stuff. He talks about the Galaxy Stadium naming rights at what was the Jones. Gives us a great history lesson. Kirby Hocutt, the athletic director at Texas Tech, around the corner. He's Will. I'm James. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Heard exclusively on TuneIn, powered by Modelo, and watched on Big 12 Studios.
Wickman looking that direction, and it's picked off. UCF with the interception. It's Philip Dunham out past the 45. UCF shows pressure. Down goes Martin in the backfield. Philip Dunham at the tackle from the safety spot. Blitz coming by UCF. Wickman has to get rid of it. Throws a pick. Another pick. And another pick six. It's Philip Dunham doing it. To get to about the 6-yard line to extend the drive, and they cannot. Philip Dunham, who has a sack and now a pass breakup, came to play this afternoon. We've been thrown on second down, looking for Thomas. He's picked off. It's Dunham again. His 3rd interception of the game. And a pick in the first quarter, and a pick six. Here's Dunham again. He's the leader on the back end for the Knights. Teams have come in costly times for
Back inside Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. We're exclusively on TuneIn. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios. We are powered by Modelo. Exclusively on TuneIn. He's Taman Turner. I'm James Westling. Producer Will in the house as we go around the horn with all the athletic directors from the Big 12 member institutions out to Lubbock, Texas today to welcome in Kirby Hocutt, the AD with Texas Tech. And Kirby, let's not bury the lead here in that you were a 4-year letterman at my alma mater, Kansas State, back in the 90s. You led the Big 8 in tackles as a junior in 1993. You were part of the all-conference team, the all-league team. So you were also a team captain, which means you've been telling people what to do for the last 30 years. But what are some of your fondest memories about your time in Manhattan?
You're going way back on me.
Way back.
There, James, way back. Nothing but great memories. I was so fortunate to be a part of Coach Snyder's first stint at Kansas State. I believe part of his second recruiting class there, but, was surrounded by a lot of great teammates who are still some of my best friends in the world, and learned so many life lessons. Coach Snyder was teaching us life lessons through football back in those days. We didn't realize it at the time, but as you reflect back now, you realize just the enormous impact that he had on our journeys and our lives and careers. And, he had one of the greatest lessons from Coach Snyder was just you have to surround yourself with great people to be successful. And you think back to his staff at that time with Bob Stoops, Mike Stoops, Jim Levitt, Dale Miller, Dana Demmel, great coaches. But thank you for mentioning that, James. I don't want to go down that pathway, but great memories, and so thankful to have been part of Coach Snyder's journey and the great things he did at Kansas State.
Hey, I'm here for it. We can go down that path all day. The other thing, like the parallels that I see from your time at K-State and now at Texas Tech is just what football has meant to the entire community. Like anytime I'm out in Lubbock, there's new stuff everywhere. It's just a blossoming destination. And Manhattan was kind of the same way. Like pre-Snyder, there wasn't a lot there, and it's completely different now.
It's such a great point that you make. Just the importance and the role that college football in particular, college athletics on more of a broad sense, plays for our communities within our states throughout the Big 12. And you just hit on how important it is to our communities for pride, for commercial development, for alumni cultivation and development for our universities. There's nothing quite like it. And a successful football program can lift an entire university. It can raise an entire university. And there are a lot of parallels there. And if you go back to Texas Tech, obviously Spike Dykes through the years brought so much pride and success to Texas Tech football. Mike Leach took it to an entirely different level, and that's what we're trying to do today, is to take it even further to the top of the national stage and competing at the highest level. And the attention, the exposure that's brought to Texas Tech and to Lubbock, Texas has been exceptional.
Kirby, I want to piggyback off of that because the USA Today coaches poll just came out yesterday, and it has Texas Tech ranked at number 12. Personally, I believe that's a little too low. Wanted to get your thoughts on where the Red Raiders are ranked.
As fans this time of year, we all love to look at that first ranking and poll when it comes out, and you see it and you think, yes, I agree with you, Taman. We should have been ranked higher, but we've got 12 games in front of us to prove that we belong higher. The guys reported yesterday. A lot of energy around the stadium, around the building. They've had an incredible summer. The workouts have been exceptional. The team building that Coach McGuire is the best at has continued to excel this summer. So, that first poll caught all of our attentions yesterday. We looked at it. Everybody talked about it. But it's going to be a fun season ahead.
Kirby Hocutt is the AD at Texas Tech, joining us here on Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios. You guys just landed a monster deal with stadium naming rights, Galaxy. This is a huge headline for Texas Tech and for the conference because it's just really cool to see a member institution doing something like this. So my question, do we still call it the Jones, and how's that all going to be repositioned?
You know, a lot of people don't realize that the Jones name came from the third president at Texas Tech. President Jones was the third president, was a successful business person in West Texas and in Lubbock, was appointed by the governor as one of the first Board of Regent members for Texas Tech. And when the presidency at Tech became open at that time, they asked him to step away from being a board of director and accept the president's position. And he did that. At that time, you know, we were bringing our football program forward. He made a $100,000 gift at that time to help with the construction of the football stadium. So it was named Jones Stadium. And times have changed, and our fan base recognizes that we've got to continue to be proactive and play offense. We were so fortunate that we've been able to engage Galaxy, who's going to be a great partner of Texas Tech and Texas Tech athletics as we move forward. And I think, you know, even more broader than just naming of our football stadium, I think we'll see them integrate with our university at many different levels. With that being said, we have 4 guiding principles, and one is to respect the past and to invent the future. So with Galaxy, we're inventing the future. There's a lot of exciting opportunities ahead of us with that partnership. At the same time, we want to respect the past and President Jones and his legacy here at Texas Tech. So I think we've got a very cool, a very exciting initiative to announce before the season starts as to how we're going to continue to recognize President Jones within the footprint of the football stadium, something that I think our student body and campus will really be excited to learn about. So unfortunately, I can't announce it quite yet, but we're excited about that idea to continue to honor President Jones' legacy here at Texas Tech.
Man, that's great to hear. You guys are on it. That sounds awesome.
Kirby, I know, and I know you know this very well, the story that dominated the offseason was Brendan Sorsby. How has the Texas Tech athletic program, how has it moved forward? How has it continued to move forward? And how do the fans feel about the whole process that happened over the summer?
Yeah, I'm not sure we have enough time to really go through all of the aspects of that question. You know, it was an interesting summer. It was a challenging summer. Most importantly, I'm proud of this football program. They kept their focus. They kept their energies focused on, you know, football being the main thing and their workouts and coming together as a team. I will say this at the beginning too. Brendan Sorsby is a very talented young man. I really enjoyed the opportunity to get to know him. He's obviously a young person who's made mistakes, and I always believe that it's our responsibilities to pick those young people up and to learn life lessons and to help them move forward. I hope Brendan will continue with his recovery with his addiction and have a great career in the National Football League beginning next season. It could be a great success story. You know, it became a very complex and difficult situation very quickly with the judges ruling here in West Texas. You know, a lot of people think it was a Lubbock judge. It was not a Lubbock judge. It was a judge that lives in Fort Worth, a retired judge there. And, you know, once Brendan retained counsel on his own, once the judge made a ruling, it became a very difficult situation for everybody. Obviously, there was a lot of conversation nationally. And I understand that the situation put my colleagues, put the Big 12 in a very uncomfortable and difficult position. And I understand that. At the same time, I don't believe everyone understood just how complicated and complex the situation was here at Texas Tech. Did we manage it the very best? Probably not. We did the best we could at that moment in time with this young man front and center. And so, you know, it became very complex very quickly on us. We did the best we could. I think our fan base understands that. They understand we're always going to put our students first, and we're always going to do our very best to do the right thing each and every day. I can look everyone in the eye and say we did that with the best we could given the set of circumstances that we had, and we're going to move forward. And this is a very talented football team. We're extremely fortunate. We got a unbelievable leader and young man in Will Hammond, who's QB1 now for us. And this football program, this athletics program is going to be just fine. We're going to continue to invest. We're going to continue to play offense, and we're going to continue to compete at the national level.
Talking with Kirby Hocutt, the Texas Tech AD here on Big 12 today. I think that's a tremendous way to frame that as a learning experience. And like Taman said, moving forward when it comes to everything surrounding Texas Tech, what you said a moment ago about the stadium naming rights deal with Galaxy, you said it was very forward thinking and could lead to more opportunities for them to be involved at a much deeper level. Do you see the Big 12's deal with Monster Energy kind of in the same light in terms of this could just be the beginning and there's a ton more potential than maybe what's on the surface?
Well, I think if you step back just from the Monster Energy deal and you look at what Commissioner Yormark continues to initiate and bring forward to our conference, he challenges our way of thinking. He pushes us into different areas where maybe we're not comfortable or not traditional with college athletics. But I don't know if we can talk about tradition anymore because there's been so much change and there's going to be so much change ahead. So, I respect and applaud Commissioner Yormark for bringing opportunities forward like that. It's conference assets that existed that we would not capitalize financially on without Brett bringing those initiatives and opportunities forward. It's received some positive exposure, some less than positive exposure. There could be some things that some of us wish were done a little differently. But that being said, as proud members of this Big 12 conference, we move forward and support those initiatives that the commissioner brings forward, and all in the spirit of growing revenue, all in the spirit of being competitive nationally and setting ourselves up to win national championships, and that's what this conference has to do. We need to continue to get multiple teams is what we need to do into the college football playoff. We need to win games in the college football playoff. We need to win a championship. We need to win another basketball national championship in this conference. So anything that we can do to generate revenue is a positive thing.
Kirby, final one for me. It's about basketball. A two-part question. How is JT Toppin doing? And then the second part is, I am a Hofstra alum, so I'm proud to watch Cruz Davis this year. How do you feel about him?
Yeah, there's a lot of excitement about Cruz. We feel very very excited that we were able to get him here to Lubbock, Texas, and Texas Tech, and think that Coach McCaslin's putting together an incredible roster. So much of that for this season and as we move forward could depend on JT Toppin. You look at that young man, a National Player of the Year candidate last year before he got hurt at Arizona State. JT's just such a talented young man. He's a young man that we have seen grow personally and as an athlete and as a leader within this basketball program. JT has so many great qualities. He's a very humble, a very quiet young man who does so many things behind the scenes to positively impact our community that I wish more people knew about. Every Thanksgiving, JT on his own will do a turkey giveaway. He partners with the 100 Black Men of West Texas. He doesn't want any promotion. He doesn't want any accolades for doing that. But JT does multiple things like that throughout the course of the year. Obviously, he's coming back from a knee injury. His rehabilitation continues to go well. We've got one of the best trainers in all of basketball, and Mike Neal, and Mike's done a great job. He and JT have been working nonstop, and all of our hope is that JT is going to continue to make progress, and we'll see him on the basketball court at some point this season.
Yeah, cannot wait. Kirby Hocutt, the athletic director at Texas Tech, the ultimate decision maker for the Red Raiders. Everybody wants just 5 minutes with the AD, and you gave us 20. So thank you so much, and we'll catch up with you again soon.
Yeah, guns up. Good talking to you guys.
See you, Kirby.
Thanks, Kirby.
Kirby Hocutt, the AD at Texas Tech, with us here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Coming up next, it is a Power Ranking Wednesday. This is Big 12 Today, exclusively on TuneIn, powered by Modelo.
But attack the defense with your mind. Here he is. Morton, it's a deep ball. Left sideline, dropping it right in for Virgil. Oh, what a ball from Baron Morton.
Beautiful pass. I mean, that's a big league throw. That is a clinic again to Reggie Virgil for a first down.
This is a BB. Like, that is a difficult throw to make, and what a catch.
Williams stays in. Play fake. Morton well protected. Spins one. End zone. Caught! He drops it in the bucket. Coy Aiken reels it in. 42 yards. Downfield strike and brought in by Aiken. They're going to mark him down at the 1-yard line.
Already. Maybe the final play of the quarter. Morton, Seabrown, there it is, and it's caught for the touchdown. Caleb Douglas. And the route is on in Morgantown.
Well, today here on Big 12 Radio, brought to you the full-time fan by Modelo. Special thanks to Texas Tech. Athletic Director Kirby Hokut, who joined us on the show, was an all-league player back in the 90s, a linebacker for Kansas State, was one of the first recruiting classes under the GOAT, Bill Snyder. Power Hour interviews later today at 2 Eastern, 1 o'clock Central. Media Day interviews with a ton of players, including a couple of guys from Texas Tech, like corner Bryce Pollock, tight end Terrence Carter. We'll have Oklahoma State's Drew Mestamaker and Caleb Hawkins, and then Arizona State's Kyson Brown and Lyric Rawls will join us at 2 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Central Time, right here on the channel. Next hour, Doug McNamee, the AD at Baylor, Eddie Nunez, the AD at Houston, will be on the show. He is Will Connerly, filling in for Ari and Taman. I'm James Westling with you. You're watching us on the Big 12 Fast channel each and every week. We do Let's Get It On. It is our debate segment. Will has the topics, which means he's got the hot takes. I look to counter today.
Yes. Well, no, yeah, I'm going to have to counter you, too.
We'll go back and forth. You got to give me the first crack at a couple.
Oh, no, you should get the first crack quite often, I think.
Well, we rotate here, Will.
Yes.
We do. Okay? We're an equal opportunity employer. So what's topic number one? And you, my friend, can actually have the lead on this one.
Okay. Topic number one. We've talked so much about football, all right? This whole show, pretty much, and movies. TCU was a team we talked about quite a bit, but we're going to be talking about the top of this conference. Okay. We talked about UCF today. They're not quite there yet. We're going to be talking about Texas Tech or BYU. Who should be the favorite in this conference?
Okay.
And you're giving me the floor first.
Yeah, this has been a much debated topic, not just on this show, but nationally. But we have debated it quite a bit because among the three of us regulars, we are all split pretty differently. So I look forward to your input.
Yes, so we're going to get it on. We are going to get it on. And I'm going to say BYU should be the favorite. I think there's a little bit of question marks right now with Texas Tech at the quarterback position and what happened this summer. There's no questions for BYU right now. Bear Bachmeier is going to make a massive jump in year number 2. The quarterback matters more than any other position. They've got that one handled. Kalani Sitake, best coach in the league right now, and he has the foundation. He wanted to be a Cougar. He stayed there this offseason despite outside interest, and they're the favorites to win the league this year.
All right, I hear you on BYU on paper. 23-4 the last 2 seasons. 2 of their 4 losses came to who? Texas Tech. Texas Tech had a quarterback last year in Baron Morton that was playing on one leg the final month of the season, and they still crushed BYU in both meetings. They beat them 34-7 in the Big 12 championship game. The combined score was like 63-14 or 63-10. That gap is tremendous. And I don't know that BYU has that many fewer question marks coming into this season compared to Texas Tech. The only difference is Texas Tech lost elite talent to the NFL, but Texas Tech has retooled with elite talent that will be off to the NFL. Will Hammond at quarterback, even if he isn't 100%, let's say he's 75% the first 3 games of the year, to me will be good enough to win. Their wide receivers are absolutely stacked. We've been through this before. Texas Tech, question marks. Texas Tech, are the transfers actually going to pan out on the field? We just did it last year, and they set a Big 12 record in this new 16-member conference for scoring margin. They were destroying people. I don't see any way they don't do that again. So to me, Texas Tech is clearly the preseason favorite.
Let's get it on. All right, next topic, round number 2 of this heavyweight bout. It's 4 preseason top 25 teams. Keep it on the topic of football. Is that respect or is that disrespect for the Big 12? James, do you want me to go first?
Yes, I do.
All right. So,
mostly because I didn't hear you.
You didn't.
I heard part of it. I didn't
listen.
Hear all of it.
Come on.
Listening is a top 5 strength of mine, and so it's fair to call me out Because you're right, I was not listening as attentively as I should have.
It's all good. I'll rehash it out. 4 top 25 teams. Is that respect or disrespect for the Big 12?
Okay.
I'm going to come out and say it's a respect. And I think a lot of Big 12 bias may come in on some sides of this and say, oh no, we're getting slept on. This is disrespect. But 4 ranked teams, that's respect. That's a quarter of your conference that begins in the national rankings to some degree. Plus, you got guys right outside the polls who are trying to make some moves as well. So there's a lot of Big 12 representation. I think Houston's ranking alone shows the respect that this league is starting to garner because of the fact that Texas Tech was so dominant, like you mentioned, in their scoring margin last year. Houston's ranking matters. Utah's ranking matters, and Arizona and TCU, we brought it up earlier in the show. Check it out if you missed it. Those are teams not ranked now that could be as well. So I think totally that they're being respected at a high level because they've got those 4 teams in the top 25.
My opponent, as we learned earlier, still argues with his Garmin GPS. It's 2026. This is disrespect for the Big 12. 0 teams preseason coaches poll inside the top 10. The only power conference that does not have a top 10 preseason team. Every other power conference on paper, according to the pollsters, they're stacking blue bloods at the very top, and the Big 12's ceiling is the preseason 12th ranked team in the country, and this is the second year in a row we've seen this. Preseason last year, the highest ranked team was Arizona State at number 11. Well, Texas Tech blew the doors off of that projection from the coaches poll. Receiving votes, I don't care how many teams are receiving votes, that's not a ranking, that's a participation trophy. So the disrespect for the Big 12 is real.
I love it.
The Big 12 also, the ACC, who the Big 12 has clearly been better than, at least last season, which if you're ranking a preseason poll, you look at what happened last year. The Big 12 was way better than the ACC. All the metrics, all the data, and the head-to-head 6-1 record against the league would solidify that fact and point that I'm making. They got an at-large berth in the college football playoff. And look how it worked out. Miami made a deep run and made the national championship game. It is ridiculous that the Big 12 is the only league, power conference, that has not received a single at-large bid in this new 12-team format. Give us a chance.
I'm glad you let me go first because I purposely wanted you to step high up and say the Big 12's being disrespected and go to bat. And so I appreciate you doing that. And what I gather from what you were saying is the disrespect comes more from teams not being in the top 10 than it's the 4 teams, or is the 4 teams also a part of the disrespect
I think
as well?
I think it's both.
Okay.
I think number 1, Texas Tech not being in the top 10, to me that's a lack of popularity in what is a popularity contest. And then just the data in terms of what they did last year, it tells me that people think their final ranking of number 7 was not justified. To be 5 spots below what they finished, and it's no coincidence to me that Texas Tech and Indiana have the biggest gap among teams that were in the playoff in the poll compared to where they finished last season. It's the logo on the helmet, it's the name on the front of the jersey, and it does not make any sense.
All right. Next one. College football playoff. You just brought it up. Will the Big 12 place multiple teams in the college football playoff?
To me, will they and should they are 2 very different things. But I'm going to take the angle of should they. Should they have multiple teams in the college football playoff? Will they? I don't know, because it's totally out of their control. It's all subjective. Should they? Absolutely yes, because I can see why last year BYU was left out. BYU only had 1 top 25 opponent on their schedule, and they got stomped twice by that opponent. This year, though, when I look at BYU, Texas Tech, even Kansas State, Utah, their schedule, I think sets up for multiple teams to have just 1 loss going into what is that Selection Sunday. And if that is the case, if there is somebody with 1 loss that does not play in the Big 12 championship game, that team could sneak into the college football playoff, which is going to be a whole new era in terms of debate within this league in terms of who should go and who shouldn't go, because you could theoretically, and I just see this playing out in my brain with the way these schedules shake out, you could see a team lose the Big 12 championship game for their second loss, and a third team be 11-1 right there with them, but they'd have one fewer loss. Which team would get in the college football playoff remains to be seen.
It does, and I think you've brought this up. You've been making these points actually for me. You tell me how balanced the league is. You tell me they're all going to beat up on each other. I think it's too balanced for its own good. They're only getting one team in because the best teams will beat up on each other. They're going to produce multiple 2-loss records, and unfortunately, if we're going on the will side of this, will they get 2 teams? They won't, because of the fact that there are going to be so many 2-loss teams. It's going to be too good for their own right, and it's going to open the door for more SEC, more Big Ten to take those at-larges, because you just brought it up earlier. These at-larges haven't been existing here for the Big 12, so I think with the preseason rankings and not having a team within that top 10, that hurts. That hurts for getting multiple teams in there. And so I think the depth of this league, which is incredibly strong, we just got off with a team that a lot of people are toward the middle or maybe even below in a UCF. We just highlighted them today. That's depth for a league because they're solid, and that's why the scoring margins, and that's why I think people are going to beat up on each other. The championship game, I don't know necessarily could help them in that aspect as well. So I think just one team is going to be happening for the Big 12, to argue with you, James.
Okay, I like it. I like it. I like it. Maybe I don't like it.
Let's get it on.
What's up next?
Let's get it on. What's up next? Do we have time for one more now?
Oh, my bad. Look at you keeping us on track.
2 jobs. 2 jobs.
I was so excited about the next 2. You know what? We're going to take the next 2. We're going to slot them at the end of the show.
Oh, wow.
Because these are great topics.
Huge one. You got to stay tuned.
Huge. It's massive. All right, this is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Coming up next in hour number 3 of the show, Doug McNamee, the new athletic director at Baylor, followed by Eddie Nunez, the athletic director at Houston, who has hired, I believe, 7 coaches, head coaches, the last 2 seasons. But Houston is on the right track when you look at their success on the field and on the court. So Doug and Eddie coming up around the corner, back-to-back replays. We talked to these guys yesterday. He is Will Connerly filling in. I'm James Westling. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios.
Just shy of the 45. Here's Greenwood to the perimeter with a first down. And into TCU territory, hit by Canada.
Comes out with a zone option here coming off. You see him holding the football there because he can throw the football. If Love makes a block there. So
he's come back this year, had to earn the job in fall camp, did so, and he's been great. This quick hitter from Wilson, and an immediate tackle in the open field. DeJon Stanley with the catch, but stopped well short. Wilson, gonna check down to the left. It's 1-on-2. A little hesitation move, and then Bernard gets shoved out of bounds.
Plays in the block here. Morton's pass. The out complete, but short of the first down yardage.
Floating into the end zone.
Big 12 Today here on Big 12 Radio. Heard exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios alongside T-Chains, Taman Turner. I'm James Westling, and we welcome in a couple of ADs this hour. And now we head down to Waco, Texas. The newest athletic director in the Big 12 is Doug McNamee, and he joins us here on Big 12 Today, live on the program. Doug, nice to finally meet you because I was absent from Big 12 spring meetings. And I guess going into like the interview process with Baylor, you probably had 2 or 3 things that you would bring to the table in terms of, let's get some stuff done once I am hired. What were those items, and where are you at just in terms of the process?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm a seasoned veteran. Fernando Lovo at Colorado has me beat by about a week in terms of newness. So I'm 15th on the longest tenured at Big 12 athletic director, thanks to Fernando. So I got to keep that out there. But yeah, I really put 3 commitments in terms of what we focus on. In this order, it was fan, funding, and football. And that's strategic in that order for a reason. I really felt a need for us to reconnect and to remind ourselves why we're here and who we're here to serve in regards to the fan. Obviously, in college athletics right now, funding is the name of the game. You need resources, and then we would be lying to ourselves if we didn't acknowledge the stakes that football carries in every college athletic department, especially in the Big 12 and a Power 4 institution. And we certainly need to, after last year's season, rebound in a positive way. So those were the 3 initiatives. How we're doing on it, I'll probably say let's see where we are in about a month when we kick off. I guess we're a month away, but really on the first 2 pieces, really encouraged, very optimistic in terms of the response, the connection. Now we need to just go out and deliver the commitment that we've promised to our fans, and then with that, I think the funding will ultimately flow as well too.
Doug, piggyback off of that, you guys have spent some money to bring in some guys to really help this football program. You guys brought in Joe Klanderman as your defensive coordinator. You guys brought in DJ Lagway as your quarterback. Now with those guys being a part of the Baylor family, what expectations do you guys have now moving forward with Dave Aranda still at the helm, and what do you guys expect to see this season?
Is so impressed and so appreciative of Coach Aranda's foresight to make a move. He ultimately moved himself out of DC and made himself just isolated as a head coach, and I think that was a very wise decision. He's proven as a CEO with strong coordinators what he can do in the past, and I think he found an absolute winner in Joe Klanderman. I mean, I think we were exceptionally fortunate to have gotten him. If you look at where all K-State's guys from defense last year ended up, I mean, they're top tier guys across the country, and they were a hot commodity, and a lot of those guys came in as 3-star, 2-star type players, and I think Joe Klanderman was a big part of coaching those guys up. So really, really pumped about the defense. DJ Lagway, special story. He's a legacy. I watched his dad play coming to games, and so he's always held a connection to Baylor. He took a recruiting visit even when he was the #1 recruit in the country from a quarterback perspective, and kept us in contention until he ultimately selected Florida. And it's a special story for him to have the chance to come back home, and both sides need each other. I think DJ needs Baylor, and Baylor certainly needs a DJ, and a DJ at his best. So really excited, with practice kicking off here in actually about 30 minutes here in Waco, just to get to see him get after it.
Doug, you were the president at one time of Magnolia, Chip and Joanna Gaines Company. Did the same at Field and Stream, which is backed by like Eric Church and Morgan Wallen. So with that like brand and media executive skill set, how is that translated to athletics? From what I've read from your press conference, like you wanted this Baylor AD job for a long time. It's a passion of yours, this program and that community. So which set of skills have translated the most?
Well, two things. First of all, I would say, had I stayed in college athletics for the last 8 years, I have no doubt I would not be prepared for this job like I have been, having had that chance to leave and get that experience at 2 different media companies. Two themes come to mind. First of all, especially with this most recent venture, it was a startup. We had to go raise the money, had to go find the funds to go buy the assets, and you got to go in and ask people and look them in the eye and tell them and paint a vision for what you think that you're going to do. And oftentimes, and it was our case with startup as well, but we didn't get enough money the first go. So you got to go back to them and ask for more money. And, that's pretty comparable to the environment that we're in right now, and sometimes your return delivers pretty quickly, and most times it takes more than what you originally expect. So I think in the environment that we are currently operating, that has certainly helped prepare me, and also the emotional piece where, when you're asking for someone else's money, you feel a greater sense of pressure and responsibility than if it's your own. Like I think a lot of people would say this, but I definitely would have a heck of a lot easier time wasting or losing my own money as compared to somebody else's, because there's an emotional weight that you carry when you're in that spot. The second thing I'd say that's common both from athletics but into those two media entities is there's an emotional connection associated with those brands. And people talk about, or the entertainment industry, or in the hospitality industry. Here's what I know: we're in the memory creation industry, and I can speak from a personal standpoint. The emotional connections that I have to family members, both that are here and both that have moved on, and it's often centered around sports. And so that's what we get to do. And we had that pleasure with two media companies that really resonated with people in a deep emotional connection. But that's what college athletics is about. And there's people that are going to walk into our stadium, a month from today, and they're going to make a memory that's going to last a lifetime. And we all have the honor and privilege to get to be in the business that produces those moments.
Doug, what's your relationship like with Brett Yormark, and can you explain your thoughts on the Monster Energy deal and how it affects Baylor?
Yeah, well, unsurprisingly, there's definitely a connection there, because I would say he was an outside-the-box candidate and came from the media industry and worked in professional sports. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that initially when he was hired was like, who and what's the connection to college athletics? And then you understand, what he's done. And so I certainly think his candidacy for the Big 12 and his success was helpful for me personally in my own experience to get this opportunity. He's gonna go out and he's going to disrupt, and he's going to challenge status quo, and he's not going to be afraid to miss, and that's the courage and the willingness that successful leaders operate under. And he's hit a lot more than he's missed as a leader for us. And I just say that specific to the Monster Energy deal, a lot of mischaracterization of what that deal is and comparisons that are just not apples to oranges. And so appreciative of his efforts, his willingness to disrupt, to go challenge, to go find funds that aren't on the table for us otherwise. And I'll also say the thing that people miss a lot of times, especially when they're comparing to other deals, you don't know the other value, the additional value that's associated with the partnership beyond just what looks like a top line dollar amount. There's extra opportunity and brand association that comes along with that, and it's reciprocal and has to be for both sides. So I would just say appreciative, and grateful for both his efforts on that specifically, but for all he's doing for us as a conference.
Yeah, Doug, what do you think the biggest misconceptions are about the Monster Energy deal?
A biggest one is just that it's gonna prohibit us from getting our own school deals, and we've got numerous Big 12 schools that have already announced theirs. We're deep in multiple conversations, and so these comparisons to other conferences and their individual school deals is just not relevant. Those are two different conversations. The inventory that was monetized in that is Big 12 inventory, and Brett made a decision on behalf of the conference that he felt like it was valuable to essentially share that real estate with a third party in exchange for compensation to our schools and co-branding with our schools. And so that's the biggest one. We still have the opportunity as Kansas, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, there's BYU, there's numerous schools that have announced it, and we'll have a great partner on there as well soon. But we're all still able to do that, and they're a big national brand with a huge marketing budget that will also cross-promote the Big 12 as part of the partnership.
We're live here with Baylor AD Doug McNamee, live here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Doug, I want to pivot over to basketball. You have a proven winning head coach in Scott Drew. What are the expectations for the Baylor basketball program this season?
Yeah, it's an interesting time. Coach Drew is a dear friend. I owe my introduction to my wife to Coach Drew, and an interesting position, because as a Baylor fan, you see a Coach Drew in just a kind of a legendary status. What he's done and what he was able to do here just puts him in a unique position in terms of any Baylor fans, all-time appreciation, and I'm no different. And so now to pop into a seat, he was a longtime friend, now to pop in a seat that I have now, at a time, candidly, where it's been tough. He's experienced so much success that any challenge, any not making the tournament is seen around here as a great disappointment, whereas before he got here, that was the standard that we operate under. So, Coach is also challenged by the NIL environment because he's so good at relationships. He's so good at going out and finding guys, redshirting them, developing. If you look at that 21 national championship team, you got a lot of fourth-year, fifth-year guys who have been redshirted. And unfortunately, the game has changed where it's year by year, and that's been an adjustment for Coach. I think he's made it very well over these last few months and over the last few years, and gotten himself. First and foremost, I'm excited about the staff that he's assembled. He brought back Jerome Tang. He's got Jake Lindsay on that staff. There's a former player that played for us in the 21 and 22 years, and 23. It's just a really respected, great player. Came from working in the NBA front office, and Jonathan Chamo Chachua. And he's just put a great staff together. So I'm very optimistic. I think the roster is strong, but at this point, everyone assessing the people that do preseason rankings on basketball, none of these guys have played together anywhere. How are we making those assessments? But we feel really good. And then I have a really great appreciation for Nikki Collin and our women's basketball program. A really tough spot for someone like her to step in following a legendary Hall of Fame coach like Kim Mulkey. And I think she's done exceptionally well, maintained a level of excellence. We certainly want to get back to the Sweet 16 and Final Four on a regular basis, but really proud of our women's program and very optimistic, just like we've been the last few years. We're going to be at the top, fight for a Big 12 championship in that sport as well, too.
Doug, I love the comp that you made with kind of your track record of success and Commissioner Yormark before he became the commissioner at the Big 12, leaning on that media side and entertainment and brand awareness and all of those different characteristics. So in today's era of college sports, in your opinion, how do you see sports coexisting with the entertainment value and the brand value, and just how much those two worlds have now collided?
For sure. I mean, we have to understand, for almost all of us, the number one input from a revenue source is our media contracts. And that is a complicated space that's seeing significant disruption and challenges every day as well. And, we have to face that. We've got to prepare ourselves to be the most attractive, desirable media platform we possibly can to continue to grow our revenues. And not only the monetization of it, but we also need to acknowledge, as we relate to our university, our mission at Baylor Athletics is to support Baylor University. It's not complex. We want to give Baylor University more visibility because we think it's exceptional student experience, and the more that Baylor Athletics can promote it, the better. But the media platform gives us a chance to tell our story for the university. So it's an opportunity, it's a platform, but it's also a massive revenue stream for us, and we just have to be very thoughtful. What creates compelling entertainment? Because that's what's going to drive. Viewership is essential. As we talk about attendance, that's important. But I'll tell you, the one chart that sits right in front of my desk right here is our viewership in football last year. And we got to get more people watching Baylor football specifically, because I owe it to Brett Yormark in the Big 12 Conference to deliver more eyeballs, because we need that for the next media contract. So that's what it's all about, and how we need to be focused as an institution, but as a conference as well, too.
Well, I just want to add before we let you go, as somebody who has announced games for television networks in Waco at Baylor, and I know a ton of announcers feel the same way, you guys have an elite TV, full production control room. It is amazing.
Well, I appreciate that. I give a lot of credit to our previous administration and Mac Rhodes and our president. They did invest, and it's, as I learned, James, I didn't know enough to really understand it, but in some of my early trips over there, to see the control rooms and the ability for the big networks of the world to come in and send a light crew because they can run everything out of that. Really proud of that, and I think from a conference standpoint, we're proud to be a leader for the Big 12 in terms of the way that the games are actually produced for our media partners.
Yeah, it's an incredible product. Doug, so nice to meet you. Thank you for your time, and
hey,
enjoy the rest of your
later?
day.
What Big 12 AD is coming out a little bit later? I want to know who's following me, and make sure we can give him some grief.
Okay, Eddie Nunez, Houston.
Okay, all right, good deal. Well, please give him grief for me, and I love Eddie. You got a good one coming on, so thanks for giving me time, and I'm glad I'm going first instead of having to follow Eddie.
For the record, technically you were second. We had Kirby right before you.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, you should have told me that. Whoa. Oh, there, you got two good ones right there. I love our Texas Big 12 partners in those guys. And Mike Buddy's another good one. I wish I didn't like that guy so much. It would be much easier to dislike Mike Buddy, but he's a good one as well too.
Yeah, it's a Texas tour today.
That's right.
Great to see you, Doug. Thank you so
guys.
much.
Anytime.
All right.
Enjoy
Thank you,
it.
Doug. Appreciate it.
The Baylor Athletic Director, Doug McNamee, joining us here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Some really, really insightful stuff from just the way he views college athletics, and Baylor's got a good one in Doug, no doubt.
Yeah, they got it right. They got a green light with Doug. He is a gem. We've had two really good ADs coming up, and I know we have Eddie Nunez coming up in about 10 minutes. But, man, it has been a phenomenal. We got a lot out of both Kirby and both Doug. And let me ask you this. What were your biggest takeaways from each AD?
Oh, man. So I thought the way that Kirby Hocutt outlined the Brendan Sorsby off-season saga was really enlightening, because he was very, I thought, transparent about just how quickly that snowballed and how Texas Tech, in my opinion, based off what he told us, really didn't have a lot of time to come up with a PR strategy to navigate that situation. And I love transparency and vulnerability, and he was not afraid to say, yeah, we'd probably do some things differently, while at the same time having nothing but tremendous things to say about Brendan Sorsby as a person. So that stood out to me. And then just their line of thinking with the Galaxy Stadium naming rights and the potential for Galaxy to be even more involved with the university. It's already a $75 million deal. So the potential on top of that, man, big time out in Lubbock.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I very much enjoyed his respect that he has for Brendan Sorsby, but also his respect that he has for his program and things they could have done differently. And sometimes in the moment, it can be very difficult to maneuver things. And you look back on it and say, hey, we could have done this or we could have done that. And Kirby Hocutt admitted that. But having respect for Joey McGuire and what he's done, having respect for Brendan Sorsby and what he has done, and having respect for his future endeavors. For Doug McNamee, I really liked what he brought up about the Monster Energy deal. How there's this notion, this perception that the schools can't also, do stuff outside of the deal, and that's just simply not true. I mean, and he gives respect for Yormark kind of being a boxer, kind of going at it, taking on what's been the norms and kind of bringing out these new ideas, and I think that's great for Baylor, and I also think it's great for the Big 12.
The individual schools can still have jersey patches, on-field, on-court branding from other partners that, sure, it's not going to be the equivalent of the value that Monster Energy is bringing to the conference, but for that individual school, it's actually going to be more. So that's on top of the Monster Energy deal, or the Monster Energy deal is on top of the individual school revenue that was just sitting there, the opportunity. It was a wide open space.
Right. 100% agree. And I love how Doug kind of broke that down. And I also liked, how he talked a little bit about basketball too, because he has enormous respect for Scott Drew, who he gave us a little story, who introduced him to his wife. But when Baylor won in 2021, there were some expectations that grew, and they want to rebuild this basketball program to the prominence that Baylor fans kind of saw during that season. And he talked about what the Scott Drew has done with the coaching staff, bringing back Jerome Tang, who was enormous to help Baylor win that championship. So I really think that Doug McNamee has been he came in at a very difficult time for Baylor. And I think that he, being a Baylor alum, knowing this program, knowing kind of working with college athletics, but also working away from college athletics, gives him a perspective that is really unique in a way that I think is a perfect fit for Baylor University.
Yeah, very well said. Really like it. Doug McNamee, the new AD at Baylor, was our last guest. We will take a break, and we will kind of set the table for Eddie Nunez, who joins us at the bottom of the hour, the AD at Houston. Houston preseason ranked in the top 25 of the USA Today coaches poll that came out yesterday. men's basketball, loaded roster for Kelvin Sampson. Eddie Nunez will be with us here in about 6 minutes. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We are brought to you, powered by Modelo here on TuneIn. Big 12 Today here on Big 12 Radio. Brought to you by Modelo, heard exclusively on TuneIn. We are awaiting Eddie Nunez, the AD at Houston, and Will, I'm going to join the video call as soon as I find it here in just a moment. A lot of exciting things happening down in Houston, man. They were a preseason top 25. The coaches poll that just came out yesterday, they check in at number 24. Their first preseason top 25 ranking since they joined the Big 12. And then with men's basketball, all the success that they've had year over year, a loaded roster this season that Kelvin Sampson has put together, some high-profile transfers. Love the kid from Kent State, who is just a freak athletically. Averaged 18 points and 11 rebounds. JoJo Tugler is going to be playing a different position this year. They're going to put him at the 4 because they have a 7'1" 5-star center in last name Diane. Afrin Diane, I believe is how you say his first name. Highly touted prospect, 7'1". So, like, he makes Chris Sinak Jr. look small.
It's so crazy to me how Kelvin Sampson can just reload, retool, reload, whatever you want to call it, and still has a great team. He still has a national championship contending team. Houston's going to be really good on the basketball side. Houston's going to be really good on the football side. I can't wait to talk to Eddie Nunez because, he has two coaches on both sides, particularly in football and basketball, who just both know how to win. And I can only imagine. I want to ask him how easy that makes it for his job. And I don't mean that like in a bad way. I'm saying like you have two really good coaches who, at the very most, know how to, just figure out winning ways and bring a winning culture.
And the athletic director at Houston, Eddie Nunez, joins us now on the program. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Hey, Eddie, how are you?
I'm great. How you guys doing?
Man, fantastic. Wow. Thank you for your time. I want to share a quick story with you. So this past February, Valentine's Day weekend, I was calling the Houston-Kansas State game, men's basketball for NBC, so I was in Houston. It's Valentine's Day, so I'm trying to navigate the whole work-wife thing. So I bring my wife with me down from Dallas. We had a lovely weekend in Houston. And she said, she loves Kelvin Sampson. She said, can I meet Kelvin Sampson? That's what I want for Valentine's Day. No flowers, no box of chocolates, no nothing. Just let me meet Kelvin Sampson. So I long story short, she comes to shoot around with me. They're taking pictures. They talked for like a half hour after practice. I'm just on the outside looking in. That's just the kind of guy. He's giving us marriage advice that Kelvin Sampson is. That's just the Houston way. It was incredible.
Well, I'm glad that experience, but that's who he is. Look, he's intense, and what you see on the court, that is who he is. I mean, he is somebody who loves, he's passionate about to be able to help the student athletes, to help his team be the best. But he really, all that what you just said, I mean, he's the first one to sit down, have a conversation about life and opportunity and get to know people. And so as hard as he can be on the court, he's also that kind of genuine person off the court, which is great.
Eddie, I truly believe that because I have a personal story as well. My dad, who unfortunately passed away, but he was a huge Kelvin Sampson fan. And when I had the opportunity to meet Kelvin, Kelvin said a lot of nice things and to me about grief and just life and how my dad would be proud. So I really appreciated that. I wish my dad could have had the opportunity to meet him, but I really appreciate Kelvin. How is being the person that Kelvin is, describe how he is able to just bring in the type of culture that just fits Houston so well.
Yeah, I think this started way before me, of course. And so me understanding what he had to go through to build that culture here, like anything else, when you take a program that has had its ups and downs and hasn't had success on a consistent basis, to be able to reframe everybody's mindset, it takes some hard work. It's going to take some risk, selling, getting people to buy in on his vision. But what you see today is a culmination of all those years of just working hard, just continually being consistent. It's important to have a belief and a desire to be great, but getting your kids to know that everything we're going to do is not going to be easy. But I promise you, if you do it, you're going to be better when this is over. And till the landscape has changed as much as it has over the last several years. He didn't have kids transferring out of his program. I think he had one or two in the last 10 years there for a while there. It was an unbelievable number, and it was because the kids bought into the culture. They understood it, and as hard as he is, and I played for a coach in Billy Donovan, and I remember people always saying that it was back in his early Billy Donovan age when he was Billy the Kid, and he had a lot of fire and a lot of intensity when he coached. But off the court, he was exactly what you mentioned earlier. James, it was that connected. Coach Sampson's the same way. He finds a way to connect, but he also teaches life lessons. So as hard as it is, he's never going to put you through something that's gonna challenge you to a point that you're not going to be able to find a way to be successful. If you are committed to the process, he's going to help you. That culture, that family, that everything that you hear about, that's real. That's real with him, and it's I've enjoyed being here and being able to be a part of it in my own way.
Well, Eddie, you guys are also winning at football now too. A 10-win season last year. The coaches poll just came out yesterday. Houston's in the top 25. Like when you got the job, Houston was at the bottom of like all power conference schools in terms of budget. And there are programs nationwide that it's easy to identify are not very good at managing their budget. Houston is exceptional at it. So what goes into that? And essentially, how are you guys doing more with less?
Yeah, first of all, you have to have coaches that believe and understand what we're trying to do. That we have challenges that pre-existed many of us, and we are to get us to where we want to be, because we all, we all aspire to not just be competitive in the Big 12. We want to win championships, and so for us to be able to do that, we have to be able to have a plan, a process, in everything we do. I've got two. I start off with football, as you mentioned, Willie Fritz. I mean, you got a guy who's been at every level. Something as simple as, look, we don't need to be taking these kind of charter flights. Let's take this one. It's a huge saving. Let's reinvest this money back into the program, into nutrition, things that we were deficient financially at the time when he first got here. Now we've been able to put that emphasis, grow it properly, but invest into the NIL space, make sure that, look, if we're going to play, we got to be all in. And so maximizing your revenue, but also maximizing what resources you have between Coach Sampson, Coach Fritz, all our coaches. Look, even the newest ones that we just brought in, I've told them point blank, we can do a lot here. I don't want to be the little train that could or this or that. That's not who we are here. We think big. We're gonna approach everything the right way. We're gonna have the expectations, but at the end of the day, we are still building this department to be competitive on a competitive, sustained competitiveness. Every year in every sport. And so I'm fortunate. Like I said, I've got great coaches that get it. We have to do it differently, but we don't back down from anything. If we don't have the resources, we're going to figure it out. That's the way I am. I'm the person that's going to say, tell me what we need to do, how we need to do it. I'm going to go out there in the streets. If I've got to get in front of a business leader, if I've got to get in front of somebody, if I've got to manage our budget a little bit differently, we have to be creative. We can't just say no, because we've got to find ways. And at the end of the day, if we get to a point we've exhausted our resources, so be it. But we're going to do it right.
Eddie, what are your thoughts on the Monster Energy deal and Brett Yormark's vision?
First of all, I'll start off with Brett's vision. The commissioner has been very intentional about trying to do things that have never been done, maybe not just here at the Big 12, but in conference in general. Looking at it different, looking at the corporate side, finding ways to generate new revenue. The Monster deal is just one of those examples. Sure, I think people sometimes get confused with that in the same category as a jersey patch for each individual school. But what we're doing is we're branding the Big 12 with Monster, which is a company that's not just being aggressive in the space of athletics in general. I mean, you see them from everything from X Games to this to that. I mean, everywhere. Their brand is growing and growing fast. For us to be able to have that connection is important. We've got to find companies that are aggressive, companies that are innovative, companies that are wanting to do it. Yes, they have to do it the right way, and we believe that the Monster does. Sure, we could all sit here and say we want $3 more. Let's put it nicely. I'm not going to say millions or this or that. We all want more. Now, what does that mean? Well, let's grow our brand. Let's grow with the right partners, and hopefully this grows to become something that's even bigger in the future. So, but I think everybody needs to understand it's not ideal when you think about we all want more money, but the reality is our brand and our jersey patch is different than the Monster deal. So.
Got it. Well said. Perfectly well said. I also wanted to follow up too. What are your thoughts on the Protect College Sports Act? That seems to be going through the hurdles through Congress. How do you think that deal, how do you think that act, if it gets passed, will affect Houston?
Well, I think you've heard everybody say this. It's not perfect, but it's moving us in the right direction. And nothing in life is truly perfect. There's always, you strive for perfection, but the reality is you've got to be as good as you can get. And anything we put out there, there's going to be things that people find loopholes or find ways to be creative. We need structure. We need something that we all align, not just the group of five, the power, the P5. It is all conferences understand what we're doing and how we're doing it. I feel for us, having some understanding of what the next several years are going to look like, if we can get to a place where this now becomes a reality, an actual official reality for us, then it allows us to plan accordingly. What it's hard for us to do, and every school, not just us, we're trying to establish a system within our operations, budget-wise, everything else, to know that this is constantly changing and changing by the minute. Even if it's your rev share is going from this to this, or now all of this big pool, this cap goes from here to there, we have to plan. And if we're planning one way, and we've got we've all restructured our organizations. Everyone in college athletics has had to do things way different than they were doing them before. But if we have to continue to change that almost on a weekly basis, because that's how it feels like, it's hard for us to be able to establish continuity. We are a part of a bigger picture, not just the industry of college athletics. We're a part of the ecosystem of college academics, the university. And so understanding how all that plays into this, and having some structure will be the ultimate outcome here. But it's not perfect, but it is something we all have to support, because it's going to give us a chance to get where we ultimately want to be.
Yeah, definitely. Step in the right direction. Eddie Nunez, the Houston AD, is with us. Played for Billy Donovan at Florida. I was obsessed with those Florida teams back in the day. By the way, I'm ordering like Florida shorts off East Bay, rocking those at the K-State Rec Center. Eddie, how many head coaches have you hired during your Houston tenure, and what are the characteristics and traits that you look for as you go through that process?
It's funny you said that. Yesterday we had our first head coaches meeting for the year. I only try to do a certain number of the year. I don't want to inundate our coaches. I looked around the room, and there's 7 new coaches between the last year and today. So last year we hired 4, and then this spring, 3, and then this spring we hired 4. So 2 of them this year took opportunities that they came after them for. 2 we had to make a change for. So 7 total coaches. And when you ask what is the criteria, you're always going to look for coaches that have had success. Let's be honest. Look, you're not going to go after and find somebody who's the bottom of the barrel. You want somebody who can win and win at a high level. But for me, it starts first and foremost with, I want an individual that has high character, high integrity. And so before I even go down a path of calling coaches, I'm doing my due diligence, not probably just watching them in advance, but finding people that have connected with them at some point and can tell me who they are, what their true character is, what kind of integrity do they have, because this job is really hard for all of us. And if I can't have a coach that I can trust and I can know is doing it for the right reasons, I want somebody to push the needle. I want somebody to be innovative. I want somebody to be creative. But I have to know that they're doing it for the right reasons and they're the right people. Take that, add it to the success that they're having with their particular sport, and then I throw one that I learned throughout my career that's important, but you have to understand the level of importance is fit. Every school is different. And I when I was at New Mexico, one of the things that I understood was you had to understand New Mexico, or you had to understand what that meant to be at a place like New Mexico. It's a great community, great culture, but you have to know what you're embarking upon. Same thing here. I want people to understand that they can fit in the state of Texas, the region, the magnitude of being in a city that has 4 million people, but also has every Fortune 500 company that you could ever imagine. How do you task that? How do you address it? You understand that we are not just building this program, we're building it bigger and better than it's ever been. So that's the vision that I have for all our coaches, finding the right people. Ultimately, after that, it just becomes, if it's in my gut, if it feels like it in my gut after having conversations, then we ultimately go the path that we've done.
Love it, man. Love it. I bet there are times where it feels like every day you wake up and college athletics has a new rule, but we appreciate your time.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you again for what you do for the conference, and anytime y'all need any of us, let us know. We're here.
Awesome.
Thanks,
you,
Eddie.
Good
Appreciate
to see
it.
you.
See you guys. Have a great one.
All right. Eddie Nunez, the athletic director at Houston. So much success within that program when you look at men's basketball, when you look at football, who went undefeated on the road last year. First time they had done that in like 2 decades. Win 10 games under Willie Fritz, and now getting all this preseason hype. It is awesome to see.
Yeah, I love it. I wish Houston was ranked a little bit higher, and I'm sure Eddie does too. But I think the football program is in really, really good hands, and I really love what he said about Calvin Sampson. It's one thing because we see it on the forefront, being on the media side, but Eddie, he's with guys like Calvin Sampson, guys like Willie Fritz, constantly, dang near every day, and to see that up close, the basketball and football side, and off the field and off the court side, I thought that was tremendous.
Awesome stuff. We had a bunch of ADs today. We'll tell you who they were, how you can find replays of those interviews coming up next. He's Taman. I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio.
On the 2025 calendar, Dean Connors with the handoff. Connors breaks free again. Dean Connors against his former squad with his second touchdown of the night.
And maybe get a little overzealous and leave some room for Connor Wiggins.
Fakes the QB draw. Oh, what a catch! Are you kidding me? Dean Connors stabs it with one hand.
But the individual effort from Connors to get a hand on that one and bring it in, that's the kind of play that gets the sideline juiced.
TCU stacks the edge, and look at Dean Connors go. Dino on the go.
They've been on the field for a while. They want to stay on the field offensively. Wickman to throw. Connors.
Oh my God.
He's got it. Trumped him. Room to run. Connors tripped up at the 10-yard line.
The rest is all the big 4-4. Dean Connors up the sideline.
Everybody knows Willie Fritz wins games. Here's a huge run, and there goes Dean Connors. And that is a 36-yard gain for Connors.
That'll put a wrap on this Thursday edition of Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We are with you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, 8A to 11A Eastern Time. Our Big 12 Power Hours today. Special thanks, by the way, to Houston, Baylor, Texas Tech. We had BYU, Iowa State. We've had Cincinnati, and I'm sure I've left somebody out, including Kansas, because those are the AD boxes that we have checked. Our goal is to chat with every athletic director from each and every school between now and the start of the football season. Doug McNamee, the AD at Baylor, and Eddie Nunez at Houston this hour. And then last hour we had Kirby Hokut, the AD at Texas Tech, in our Big 12 Power Hour later today. Starts at 2 Eastern, 1 Central with Arizona State players, Kyson Brown, the running back, defensive back Lyric Rawls. From Texas Tech, you'll hear from corner Bryce Pollock and tight end Terrence Carter Jr., and then Oklahoma State running back Caleb Hawkins and quarterback Drew Mestamaker. So it is a loaded day here on Big 12 Radio. Will Connerly is with me, filling in for Taman and Ari, doing both today. I'm James Westling on this final whistle. How would you evaluate your first day in that chair? You've been with us. When did you first start kind of filling in on the producer side?
So the first time was before the Big 12 football championship. I think maybe a month or two before that, I filled in a show or two maybe a week here or there. And then the Big 12 championship, I think the week leading into that was the first time it was like, okay, he's doing like the shows. He kind of knows how to do it. Came in and shadowed a few times before that. So about this time a year ago, probably those conversations were starting about, hey, we need a backup producer. So there you go.
And you're our guy. And through the last 10 months, if my math is correct, this is your first time being in this seat. So how did it feel?
It's comfortable. It's pretty good. I mean, I'm a big guy, but no, it's comfortable. And I'm just excited about all those ADs you talked about, but I'm sad that you're going to miss out on your guy next week, Gene Taylor, coming on the show. So if we want to tease us for next week and get a taste of the weekend, because like you mentioned, replay's coming up tomorrow. But no, see, chair feels good. I mean, I'm a big guy.
If you just tuned in, huge, massive, size 15 shoe, NFL tight end. I called him a refrigerator with a heart of gold. Apparently that was offensive to some other listeners and feedback that I got. They just said it was confusing. Spoiler alert, it was my wife.
Oh, wow.
She said, you probably really confused him. Like, what does that even mean? You're comparing him to a kitchen appliance? I said, and then I lost sleep that night. I thought, number one, I've offended Will. Number two, it doesn't make sense.
And you lost sleep.
Well, you don't have a square face or body, or are you frigid or cold? No, you've got a warm vibe to you.
What kitchen appliance would be good? You're an air fryer, you know?
Man, I use an air fryer
microwave
at least once a day.
Once a day?
At least once a day. Sometimes twice a day.
So hard to clean, I feel like. That's
Bro, just let it ride.
You go dishwasher with it?
No, I say I just don't clean it.
Well, they make those covers that you can put the food in and throw the cover away. I've done that. But I've put I don't know if you're supposed to do this because I'm known for dishwashing things you're not supposed to dishwash.
Like what are those special pans?
No, I learned my lesson on pans because we actually cook so often. We got some stainless steel pans, so I make sure to do right by those with
aluminum.
The hand.
Yeah.
But the air fryer, I've put the whole air fryer in the dishwasher. Okay, not with the cord, but the basket.
Yeah, the basket.
Yeah.
How did it turn out?
I think good.
Fine?
Yeah.
Pro tip. Aluminum foil.
In the bottom of the air fryer.
In the bottom of the air fryer.
Like above the... You have the pan where it comes out. What's that called where it comes out?
I don't know. There's like
tray.
There's like a
tray?
tray. Yeah, a tray.
You put it above the tray or below the tray?
I put it wherever I'm putting the food, which for me is just on top of the tray.
Sitting on the food. Okay.
So aluminum file, folder, aluminum foil under the food. Set the food on the aluminum foil. It still cooks fine. And then when you're done, you just throw that aluminum foil away.
What are you running in there? Cookie cakes or...
Cookie cakes?
Air fryer cookie cake sounds good. I've never done it, but like chicken...
What is this? This isn't the Texas State Fair. What are you talking about?
Grilled cheese?
Chicken, mostly chicken.
Shrimp?
Sweet potato fries. Let's see.
You cut them up?
I'll heat a lot of leftovers.
Oh, you do that instead of putting it in
I'll
the
warm up
microwave.
tortillas if I'm making tacos. Throw those tortillas in there. Give them a little crisp.
You're not a microwave guy.
Every day.
I'm
Oh,
warming
no.
up my
We
food
don't
in the air
microwave.
fryer.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
Not anymore. We've only had the air fryer since last Christmas, but it has changed my life.
It's gotten its money's worth.
In a good way.
It's good once a day.
You had some banger, like let's get it on topics that we didn't have enough time for during that segment.
I did. And one of them was based off what we talked about earlier in the show about should fans... Is that the one you were referencing?
Yeah, let's go for it. Any of them.
So
they're all bangers.
Fans should call plays once per season. I was wondering if you think that should be introduced across the board.
All right, so I just typed in Akron into search, whatever. On Twitter, Akron is everywhere. Memes. This one's got 864,000 views. Akron's actual official post has 20 million engagements.
And if you haven't seen the post, which 20 million people have, they said season tickets holders would have a chance to be put into a lottery to win an opportunity to call their home opener. They open up with Wake Forest, but their home opener against Robert Morris.
Yep.
You get to call the first series.
Front page of Yahoo Sports, Akron's football suites are sold out for the first time in program history following its viral play-calling promotion for season ticket holders.
The season tickets.
Nobody knew anything about Akron Zips football other than they are the pride of... Did Julian? No, he played at Kent State. I couldn't name one player that played at Akron. I could give you Antonio Gates and Julian Edelman from Kent State.
Jason Taylor?
Akron Zip?
Think so.
Nicely done, dude. Nice.
Google.
Baller.
But a goat,
like,
for sure.
Everybody knows everything about Akron now.
Yeah.
Akron's all over the place. So, yeah, I think it's a brilliant idea. Now, I don't know about the opening drive. I'm not sure how that would, work out for, like, Oklahoma State against Oregon, their home opener. But maybe a play. Give them a play.
And I also think, too, they're not going to be in the booth with the headset on. I think they're going to be a part of the process with the coach.
Game week.
And you get an opportunity to see the behind the scenes. But still, that's beside the point. The point is season tickets can be sold for these smaller college football programs by doing promotions like this. And there's other promotions, I'm sure, you could think of that are similar to things like that.
It's brilliant. How much of these season ticket sales can fund their NIL?
I'm sure
to help their roster for 2027.
And think of the other ideas that will be generated from it. Come kick a field goal at practice if you're a season, or something like that. Maybe that doesn't move the needle as much as calling plays for a home opener. But things like that, those promotions, these schools are trying to get creative to find ways to have the money. Now, these bigger Power 4 schools, for the most part, you heard earlier this week, they all are going to reach that money. But these schools are finding creative ways to generate revenue, and I think it's smart.
I think you're onto something with the kicking aspect of the game. Let a fan kick an extra point.
Yeah, let a fan
hold for an extra point.
Yeah,
or just throw them out there on kickoff coverage. What could go wrong?
A lot.
Yeah,
that's why
there's a lot of hurdles with that idea. Actually, it's pretty bad.
Well, they changed the kickoff so much in the NFL because the injuries.
Yeah.
I know you brought up NFL. You're pumped for the preseason getting going.
Dude, can't wait. So excited. Love the preseason. Nothing better.
It is a good time.
Preseason football to watch third and fourth strings.
It is.
But hey, football's here. Hall of Fame game is tonight.
Wow. I know you mentioned if I needed a spotter the other day. Well, funny enough, for preseason games, I spot in the broadcast booth for the Jaguars. So I actually watch a lot of football in the preseason.
You spot for the Jaguars?
Well, because preseason games aren't network, right? They're just local television.
But they play in Jacksonville.
Yeah, Jacksonville and New Orleans this year.
And you spot?
Yeah, I fly there and you're going to the booth. I've done it the last 3 years.
Is this a real story?
I mean,
it actually happens? You just kind of
a
buried
fact.
the lead? We talked broadcasting during the break all show. All the things you're doing. You fly to
I was thinking of on-air
the
stuff.
NFL preseason.
I was thinking of on-air stuff. But yes, no, I do.
That's amazing, dude. That's awesome.
This guy got the tackle. It's actually harder in preseason because there's so many.
A billion guys play.
There's 100 guys in scratches. Who got this interception? Sometimes they're not on the roster. Like, it's a jumbled up. But I'm used to that stuff, calling like lower level things. So I'm like, oh, it's this guy.
Dude, I bet you're amazing at it. I bet you crush it.
But Hall of Fame game.
Hall of Fame game. Sweet, man. That's a fun fact. All right, Will, you're back on Monday with Ari.
That's right.
Little musical chairs over the last week or so. We will have a best of show tomorrow with all of the interviews that we have assembled all week long. There are some bangers. You won't want to miss it. Don't miss our Big 12 Power Hour. It starts at 2 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Central. Brought to you, the Full-Time Fan, by Modelo. The show returns live on Monday. He's Will Connerly filling in. I'm James Westling. Special thanks to Anthony Smith behind the camera, on point as always for Big 12 Studios. We'll talk to you then. Have a phenomenal rest of your Thursday.